Every nigga everywhere I go, man. Juicy J, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, spin that shit.
Memphis nigga everywhere I Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
Every nigga everywhere I go.
Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
Every nigga everywhere I go.
Eyes all red like city gear. Draw down on him, make a fuck nigga, give it here. Jeff number 1, I'm the rookie of the year. Wanna see a mad tree, make a nigga disappear. Real Memphis nigga when I'm looking in the mirror.
Yo, Memphis nigga everywhere I go, this the remix.
Ay.
Memphis nigga going up like the G-Mix.
Ay. Everybody outside, it's the freak nigga. Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
Fuck nigga, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Let's get it. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Let's get it. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Let's get it. Memphis nigga everywhere I big head that hoe. Memphis shit, that's how I feel. Check might check me a hoe, might flame me a hoe. Spit a little game on a hoe. Never spend change on a hoe. Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
He ain't even been to the city before. Fuck nigga. He ain't even been to the city. He ain't even been to the city before. Let's get it. Nigga came once, but he can't come back no more. These Memphis nigga when I drop my low. Yo, nigga want smoke, let's go. Yo, bitch want smoke, fuck nigga, I call Big Glow. Yo,
Memphis bitch everywhere I go. Okay. Memphis bitch everywhere. Let's get it. Memphis bitch everywhere I go. Okay. Memphis bitch everywhere on the count. Memphis bitch everywhere I go. Might take a bitch nigga, might take a nigga home. Riding down Fraser be coolin'. With some hot boys still doing donuts in the smoke. Getting money ass bitch, that's me. That's me. Tomato fruit M's and I still want more. Now if Memphis bitch got hard. Win, lose, or draw, bitch, I still want smoke. I ain't shit but 25. Let's go. Already a legend up in my seat. Bump down, bump 3-6. Hey, man, play me some of that pimpin'. Gangsta ass bitch, stay muggin'. Everywhere I go, I'm thuggin'. Memphis bitch, everywhere I go. Let's go. And everywhere I go, they love me.
Yeah, every nigga everywhere I step through. 3-6 Mafia and Gangsta Boo. You know what it is, my nigga. My city full of gorillas that ain't from the zoo. North Memphis nigga so infamous. Rest in peace, Lord Infamous. Old school nigga with the pole in the cut. I hear making easy money, tryna pimp a slut. Fraser Boulevard and a car all candy. South Memphis bitch, she ain't wearing no panties. She ain't never been nowhere outside our city. I'm a draper in Dior and I'ma take it to the Grammys. Memphis nigga everywhere I step on the scene. Ride through Evergreen, blowing Getty Green. Give a little bad bitch a hug. With all this water on me, she gon' have a wet dream. You don't know nothing about Hyde Park. You don't really wanna stop by after dark. Even Nick K's know the city I'm reppin'. Have a nigga scat pack go to 60 seconds. 20 years plus I done been in this thing. And a nigga like me ain't never gon' change. Rollin' up dope while I'm sitting so close. I can walk on the floor at the Grizzly game.
I want EP and chicken and dogs. She wanna receive under the heart. I'm with Lil P and no motherfucking pot. I be like Cheeky, we say squad. Nigga there.
Ayy, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Get 100 bread a piece when I'm in the stove. Parkway Village, I'm a native. Still had a duck posted up in the Dover. Young nigga wanna be like Craig Pettis, bro wanna be G-Train. Afghanistan top tier, tell Biden send us to Ukraine. Drake made sure we drive global. Let me tell you about Poplar. We'll stop and deals go for a couple bucks, she'll take it so. East Memphis, that's in that league. North Memphis, that's got it. South Memphis, long live flipper. West Memphis, that ain't Memphis. On EP, eating chicken at Dodge before a nigga went vegan. Might get it 6P from Crumpets. All done left, it's the best jack. Is she from Memphis with a button on? She give more head than a lace front. Me go my partner from back in the day, but I heard he hit him a lace blunt. Tell white folks he my nigga. Hey Max Snoop, I got a beer for you. From a city where you win it, they don't even really wanna even cheer for you. Deep down they be hating on you, but too quick to say I love you. In Memphis it's a red flag if she ain't blood and she say brother. Everybody gotta switch in this bitch. Game be beefing with clicks. Tell DJ yo where the dream ball at. I'm tryna stomp some shit. 2016 at the Delta Fair in the corn maze, you could die there. Long live J Money Truler, when he died, whole city had tears. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. I don't care if it was Idaho. Before Ja, it was Mike Cullen. Before Jaren, it was Zebo. In the lead, don't get his credit, but I'm really hometown hero. Might use a key to the city just to lock my back door. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Oh, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Oh, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Oh, Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Memphis nigga everywhere I go. Oh, Memphis nigga everywhere. Memphis nigga everywhere I go.
Good morning, people. Good morning. I am so behind. I'm on day 4. They currently on day 7, which is closing arguments. So they may be going to the jury today. They may be coming back tomorrow. I don't know. I'm going to see it through, though. I'm going to see it through. I'm going to play everything. I'm going to do it. Even if I miss the real-time announcement. I'm gonna follow this thing through. So without further ado, we on day 4, which was 4 days ago. This is an ex-officer that had started in day 3. He finished and testified.
Yes. Mr. Hill, I'm going to call your attention to a few things.
I hope they ain't going back to the video.
The dispatch radio recordings from the night in question. They've already been made. Will be made part of collective exhibit that the 2 officers are coordinating and have been doing everything else. And for the record purposes, the entire audio is quite long, but I'm going to go to the 8-minute and 37-second mark, and I believe you as a witness will recognize what's happening. Okay, are you ready to proceed? Yes, sir. We're going to do it very similar to what we did yesterday as it relates to what you heard, etc. Okay? I'm going to hit pause. I don't understand. We ran into the same situation as Nichols yesterday. We're trying again. Before we go much further, can you hear that, Mr. Hill? Yes, sir.
Not more body cam footage.
You can try a few more seconds, see if it gets better.
I went back to that damn board video.
Do best. If you can't hear something, you just tell us. Okay? Yes, sir. Now, see, John. First of all, whose voice was that?
It sounds to be like Officer Martin.
Is that a recording from the night of Tyree Nichols' arrest?
Yes, sir.
That low ass audio. You gotta be in the court to hear this shit.
When I read, we're waiting. They're off. Can't go to school. The baby's running down Ross.
You recognize that voice?
Yes, sir.
Whose voice was it?
That was my voice.
You're 2938, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Young male black, blue jeans, and a hoodie.
Sounds to me like you're
Out of breath.
We earlier saw your body cam in the attempted arrest of Tyree Nichols across the Range Road. Are these calls lined up at that time frame?
Yes, sir.
Is that why you're out of breath?
Yes, sir.
Come on, defense attorney.
By the way, we've heard that a few times. What is the dispatcher asking you
She's asking what were the charges.
on the fleeing?
Suspect, yes, sir.
And do you recall an answer ever being given by you or anyone else to dispatcher?
No, sir, not that I recall.
Do you know why? Do you know why you nor any of the officers announced to dispatch you that you dispatcher what the charges were? So your mind, or what?
Yes, sir, it slipped my mind. I wasn't even listening to the radio because at that point I was helping Haley.
Proceed again at 10 minutes and 29 seconds. Who was that?
It sounded like Officer Martin again.
And what is he asking?
Asking if there were any other Scorpion units in the area
And to what?
and to start heading to this area.
Now, if that call goes out, you as a Scorpion team member or Memphis officer, what does that mean to you or you to do?
You need to get there if possible.
Well, if none of us are cops, you say if possible, what do you mean by if possible?
If you're not tied up on another call, if you're not in the middle of a traffic stop, you need to drop everything and head to that location.
What would happen if you decided, I'm not going to my call?
Realistically, other cops will start talking about you.
Would you be disciplined?
Possibly, yes, sir.
Back on at 10:36. Whose voice was that?
Sounded like Officer Justin Smith.
His number's 2931, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What was Justin Smith putting out on the dispatch?
That he was en route to that area to assist.
Back on 10:45. Did you recognize that voice?
It sounded like Officer Nichols.
And is that Nichols saying he's on his way as well?
He's asking the dispatch for the last four of the CAD for, I assume, on the previous stop, and then he's going to head that way.
Okay, you're using acronyms, things like that. CAD is
Computer automated dispatch. Anytime something happens to where the police are called, it generates an event number so that everything is in numerical order for what happened during that day.
And does that allow the officer to look on the CAD, the computer in the car, to find out what's next to do?
Yes, sir.
Back on at 10:56.
And we can't hear this shit. That was terrible for the viewing audience. I don't know how this helps the defense anyway. What is he trying to get at?
038, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What were you asked?
She was asking if I still had eyes on the suspect.
What was your response?
Hey.
Back on at 11:27. Do you recognize that voice?
It sounded like Officer Justin Smith.
What did Justin Smith ask?
Can we set up a perimeter?
What is the perimeter?
We know the location where the suspect was last seen. Can we get officers in that area to make sure that there's still someone in that neighborhood?
Back on at 11:40. I'm going to get pause there at 11:49. The dispatcher said something about a radio call, all Scorpion calls, cars. What did she say?
All Scorpion cars get to that location and bring the Ross.
Did she use the word pull down?
Yes, sir.
What does pull down mean?
Pull down means he just pull over where we park the car to assist him.
It's an officer needing assistance. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Back on at 11:49. That's Justin again asking the same question, right?
Yes, sir.
Moving on at 11:59. What did dispatcher tell Justin in his request for perimeter?
That there weren't any more cars.
All right. Going on at 12:03. Whose voice was that?
It sounded like Officer Martin.
The he that he's referring to is who?
Mr. Nichols.
Moving on at 12:23. That's you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're responding to Mark's call?
Yes, sir.
Who is 29:33?
I believe that was Officer Martin.
And pursuant to policy, if a police officer uses one of his weapons, taser, spray, what are y'all supposed to do?
Yes, so per policy, we're supposed to alert the supervisor and call fire department.
And that's what that call is about?
Yes, sir.
To inform dispatcher?
Yes, sir.
All right, and then if we're listening for your supervisor, that'd be Lieutenant Wayne Smith, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And his number's 2901?
Yes, sir.
All right. Back on 13. All right, I heard dispatcher call 2901, and then I heard someone say check. Was that Lieutenant Wayne Smith?
Yes, sir.
Because we're not police officers, and I'm just asking, is that Dwayne Smith saying, hey, I heard that transmission?
Yes, sir. In police language, the word check is just an easy way to say okay.
Moving on at 1311. Whose voice was that?
Officer Justin Smith.
What's he telling dispatch to do?
To have the fire department head to that location based on the fact that he knows that at least pepper spray was used.
I got a silly question. You have a lieutenant, he paid to be the supervisor. He didn't make that call, did he? The lieutenant.
Not that I can hear, no, sir.
As soon as you're here, okay?
Yes, sir.
Dispatch, does dispatch know the policy and procedure? Then he even says if chemical spray is used, to go ahead and roll the fire department.
Yes, sir.
But that call appears to be Justin telling dispatch to do it, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on at 13:23. Your voice. Your voice.
I wasn't able to hear that voice.
Okay, we'll move on. Whose voice was that?
It sounded like Officer Justin Smith.
And it's the he that you're referring to, the suspect.
Yes, sir.
Is it our, I just asked my own education, is it my imagination that I'm hearing the cops call outs much clearer and louder than I hear the dispatcher, or is it just because the dispatcher, to your knowledge, is a low call?
I'm saying with you, the cops are coming through more clearly and dispatching a little more mobile.
And did you find that to be common, as we're rolling out there, the dispatcher's kind of quiet and mumbled?
Yes, sir. There were times that we would have to tell dispatchers, hey, can you speak up or you're coming in muffled?
Okay. Moving on at 14:15.
This is terrible for the listening audience.
Back on at 14:40.
I'll be doing Petty Springer updates via Twitter of the Diddy trial and what's going on with jury selection. It's a Fed trial, so no cameras are in there. So all my updates are gonna be coming from Twitter from somebody that's gonna be in the courtroom and just tweeting about it on the breaks and things of that nature.
Is that also in the Martin that we just heard?
Yes, sir.
Moving on, 14:48. And who was that?
That was my voice.
And what are you doing?
Just making sure again that the dispatcher knew that I used my taser.
Is that pursuit policy?
Yes, sir.
Moving on at 14:57. What'd she say?
She told me that she does have it written down on her system that I used my taser and she does have the fire department around.
Moving at 15:04. Just before I start. So at this point, Tyree Nichols has not been captured. Is that right?
I don't believe so, yes, sir.
You haven't heard it on radio, have you?
No, sir.
Okay. So at this point, at least from the radio standpoint, Mr. Nichols has not been captured or spotted.
Right.
And yet, you, Justin, and who knows, maybe somebody else, have let dispatcher know to get medical over. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
The first one happened to be Justin Smith, but then you did it as well, right?
Yes, sir.
And the officers, it sounds like to me, have reported to their supervisor, the pepper spray, the taser, and a fleeing suspect to the supervisor through the dispatch radio system. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Back on 15:07.
Okay, I see where you going, defense attorney. You saying if all this was premeditated and they was out to get Tyree if they caught him because he was cheating with one of the police officers, which McCall, they sure did they followed protocol by calling in, asking for medical, 2 officers. Before they caught him, they let the supervisor know what happened. Well, yeah, they followed protocol up into the beating. So I get he's trying to establish that this was not any premeditated bias against Tyree. I get it, defense attorney, because I sure was wondering where the fuck you was going. It took you 20 minutes to get there, but I see where you going. Come on in, Bird.
Whose voice was that?
Lieutenant Smith.
And what is Lieutenant Smith asking the dispatcher for?
Can she check to see if there's a K-9 officer available to help search the area?
Moving on. 1519.
Y'all was finna pull out the helicopter too, wasn't it? They wanted K9 dogs, perimeter.
Whose voice is that?
Sounds to be Officer Martin.
And whose tag is he asking to be running?
Mr. Nichols.
Good morning, Leah.
Moving on, 1532. David Martin,
Yes, sir.
back on 1549. David Martin again.
Yes, sir.
And what is he asking the dispatcher for?
To run the tag and can you get the address off the tag?
Why is that helpful?
Because if the suspect lives near, they're possibly running to their house.
Doesn't that assume that the owner of that car is the one driving the car?
Yes, sir.
At this point, did any officer out there know who was driving that car?
No, sir.
Moving on. 1603. Whose voice is that?
Sounds to be Officer Mills.
And what's he saying? What's he communicating?
That he has located the suspect southbound on Ross and then said we were at Ross, like towards the other street. No one able to hear that.
I would suggest you use Ross and Cascade, but the question I want to ask you is, you know Mills' voice pretty well, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Is he pretty quiet, pretty calm, pretty laid back?
Yes, sir.
Did he sound pretty calm, laid back in that radio call?
No, sir.
What's it sound like to you, knowing Mills and the way he talks?
That he is running after somebody and needs other cars with him now.
Playing at 1632. What was that?
The dispatcher just repeating the address of Ross and Cascade.
Is that for who to act upon?
Any officer that has a radio tuned into that frequency.
For which precinct?
Ridgeway Station.
And Ridgeway Station, is that a large precinct with several cars, several officers, what?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving on, 1647. You know what that was?
I couldn't hear all of it.
Who's speaking?
It was the dispatcher.
Did you hear an address?
All I heard was Cascade.
Would it help if I rewind 10 seconds?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear about that time?
Yes, sir.
There's an address on Cascade, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that the dispatch responding to the earlier call on running that tag?
Yes, sir.
You sure of that?
Yes, sir.
They play at 1654. Whose voice was that?
Sounds like Officer Justice Smith.
How would you describe Justin Smith's voice in that radio call?
Distressed and currently fighting with somebody.
And what is he asking for?
He needs more cars with him now.
He needs assistance.
Yes, sir.
Being played at 1712. That's at 1720-ish. That's the dispatcher speaking. And what is she telling officers in the Ridgeway precinct?
Is there anyone available to assist with officers with a suspect that's distant and running?
Playing at 1724. By the way, you mentioned earlier that you're not really doing anything, really doing a whole lot. You should go back on that call from dispatch to the entire precinct. What are the officers being ordered to do?
To head to that location if you're not stuck on anything.
I don't want to take issue with stuck on anything. What do you mean by stuck on anything?
If you're not stuck waiting on a tow truck to tow a car that broke down in the middle of the road, you're not still on a traffic stop trying to issue a ticket for speeding. If you're sitting in a parking lot waiting for a call, you need to head to this location now.
Well, I'm going to throw a hypothetical at you. You're a police officer. If the dispatcher says, pull over to 6547 Council Day. You're saying that you have to be waiting on a tow truck? You can keep waiting on a tow truck, or you don't need to go give officer assistance?
Memphis PD would rather you wait for the tow truck. Because other officers would pick up the slack.
Who was that?
I wouldn't.
That's all right, move on. You probably could make that out because I couldn't, right?
Yes, sir.
Moving on. Whose voice was that?
Sounded like Officer Justice Smith.
When Vice Clear's before, was it?
No, sir.
Sound like he's actively engaged in something?
Yes, sir.
What's he doing?
He's still fighting with the suspect.
And sometimes, even if somebody makes a radio call out, you hear background noise. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear background noise on that call? Or you want to hear it again?
Can I hear it again?
Sure. Yes, sir. Two voices, did you?
Yes, sir.
Is that background noise I was talking about?
Yes, sir.
Did you make out what the other person, the mystery person, was saying?
No, sir.
Did he get 1825? How about that? Did you get that a little better in the background?
Yes, sir.
What did he say in the background?
Give me your hands.
What did he say?
Let me hear it one more time.
Sure.
Good morning.
Morning.
Give me your motherfucking hands.
So the call is just before it's going out, but you hear something in the background saying, give me your motherfucking hands.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea whose voice that was?
It sounds like Officer Martin.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. You drinking some margaritas today? Some Coronas? Some Dos Equis?
And you know this, man.
Making some tacos?
Yep.
Some chalupas, maybe?
No chalupas.
Gabe is already turning up as we speak. He got his sombrero on. He kicking it.
Hey, Chad.
I just said this is the day, man. They cutting up. He eating
God.
Takis and everything.
Crazy.
Let's dispatch on for Justin.
Yes, sir.
This is because she wants to know his exact location.
Yes, sir.
Moving on at 1851. Whose voice is that?
I wasn't able to tell by that voice.
You want to try again or not? Move on.
We can try one more.
All right.
You can't hear that shit at all. The low ass tape. Speed your defense up, nigga.
Whose voice is that?
That was Officer Hayden.
He's 2935.
Yes, sir.
Moving on at 1931. Whose voice is that?
Sounds like Officer Mills.
How's he sound?
Out of breath.
Moving on at 1936. That was Mills again, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Whose voice is that?
It sounded like Officer Justin Smith.
play it again, see if you can hear anybody else in the background. Who's that?
That's Officer Smith still.
Did you happen to hear what the intersection was that Justin Smith put out on the radio?
It sounded like Ross and Cascade.
Oh. Okay. Moving on to 2004. By the way, regardless of what he said, it sounded like he had his composure.
No, sir.
How long have you known Justin Smith?
About 3 months.
Would you describe him as a composed person?
Yes, sir.
Moving on at 2004. Who was that?
Lieutenant Smith.
And was he confused, or could it be that Justin put out the wrong street name?
He sounded like he was confused how the dispatch was saying the street name.
Moving on at 2026. Whose voice was that?
Officer Mills.
Dispatch actually called for Justin 2931 saying, give us your location again. And Bill's answer, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that common?
Yes, sir.
If somebody's busy doing something important, another officer standing there can make a response. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
And that's what happened there.
Yes, sir.
Mills responded, hitting play at 2041.
Boy, that is terrible with this damn audio. We can't hear shit. Hell, they can't even hear it in the courtroom. A lot of the shit they saying, don't worry about it. You couldn't hear it, don't worry about it.
All right, first of all, whose voice was that?
Officer Hayden.
That's 2935.
Yes, sir.
And what was he telling dispatch?
Telling the dispatcher to go ahead and start the fire department with the suspect pepper spray, teddies, and everything.
By the way, you were at cross range during these transmissions, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Were you listening to them?
Yes, sir.
And when you heard that transmission, did you draw any conclusions whether or not the suspect was in custody yet?
Normally when you call the fire department, it's the suspect's in custody.
Custody is defined as what, sir?
At least having the handcuffs on.
Handcuffs and anything else?
Under control.
I got searched.
Ready to search. Yes, sir.
Oh wait, Ross and Range Road, did anybody search Tyree Nichols?
No, sir.
Moving on at 2145. I couldn't make that out, could you?
Yes, sir.
What was it?
That was Officer Mills. Also just advising that pepper spray was deployed.
Okay, so you can say dispatch didn't know about all this, right?
Right, yes, sir.
And if I remember from your body cam yesterday, when Engine 55 rolls up, which I think we're about here, when Engine 55 rolls up, what do you tell the paramedics that get off the fire truck?
That the suspect was pepper sprayed and tased.
And did you mention to the paramedics that you had been fighting with the suspect?
Yes, sir.
So at least at this juncture, everybody on this radio frequency, MFD, everybody knows it's a fight, there's tasing, spraying, fleeing. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
2134. And what was dispatch telling the officers right there?
She was telling 2935 that the fire department was already en route.
We're at 2140. Did he play? I didn't recognize it. You?
No, sir.
Go ahead, I'm playing. Okay, my math is right. About 15 seconds went by from the time Haley said, pepper spray, tase, everything. You calling saying paramedics are on the scene with you at Range Ross, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, what did I go to
2932.
2932. I don't remember.
Did you hear what 2932 said?
That they have in custody.
Which is a little bit later than what we heard earlier, right?
Yes, sir.
We were 2214 when the last police officer made that call. Moving forward.
We don't hear nothing, bruh.
Does our car need to come down to you, or are you bringing it back down here? Come down here, bring it down here.
All right. A little bit unusual to use a person's name on the radio, is that right?
No, sir.
Yeah, Bill. Whose voice was that speaking to you?
Justin Smith.
And what was he telling you?
He was just telling me that the fire department needs to come to dinner.
He already told you once, right?
No, sir. That was the only one that I can recall when you answered.
Okay. But does Justin sound to you, based on your knowledge of his voice inflection, be a little bit put out?
Yes, sir.
He says, Nichols, just sitting down there. Just sitting down here, us. Is that what he said?
Yes, sir.
And did you follow that direction?
Yes, sir.
And by the way, what rank, not title, but what rank did you have at the Memphis Police Department?
Just regular officer.
Okay. And how's it work? Patrolman 1, Patrolman 2, how's it work?
So you have patrolman probation, then you have regular patrolman, and at the time it was sergeant, lieutenant, and on
We'll stop the sergeant. Okay, so it's probationary, what do you call it? Patrolman, and then sergeant, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Justin Smith's rank at the time of this incident is what? Same as you?
Yes, sir.
Patrolman.
Yes, sir.
All right. That was you?
Yes, sir.
Same way?
I'm sending the fire department that way now.
You have testified in numerous environments, FBI, Department of Justice, State of Tennessee, District Attorney's Office. You have given your statements, and some of those statements have been sworn to, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And let's just look at the sworn statements, sworn testimony that you did. You were asked, and I'm asking you today, are you familiar with Justin Smith's reputation theory for organized crime?
Not too familiar since I only knew him 3 months.
Okay, we'll do it that way. Do you recall your sworn testimony when asked to describe Justin Smith's reputation in your opinion of him?
Very caring, laid back, and understanding.
And does kind and gentle ring a bell for you in front of the grand jury stating that about Justin Smith?
Yes, sir.
Was that your testimony?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
It's very similar to what you just said. I just want to make sure you did in fact testify that way about Justin Smith.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by kind and gentle? And did you say compassionate as well? What did you say?
Understanding.
Understand. Describe for the jury what you mean by kind, gentle, and understanding.
Anytime I had a question or anything, I would always ask him. He wouldn't ask questions. He would just help me out at the best of his abilities. There was a time where I was probably going to be sent off the team because I wasn't producing stats. So he told me to ride with him in his car for a couple of days so he can help me get on track to doing what the Scorpion team needs to do.
He also gave you some advice about what officers to stay away from, too, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Did you follow his advice?
Yes, sir.
May I have a moment with the client? John. John, I'll ask what. Very good. You need this up. Cool.
Good morning.
Let John hear. I'm here last to hear your opinion. Other than you, Mr. Bean would have been the newest member of the Scorpion unit back when you were on the Scorpion unit, right?
Yes, sir. If I recall, he was only there a little bit longer than me.
About a month longer than that. And Mr. Zumak asked you a series of questions, so I'm not going to go through all of that. I'll probably get here in 5 minutes with. Mr. Zumak asked you before he sat down, questions about how many different times you've talked and testified, et cetera. You've been pretty consistent, right?
Yes, sir.
You've been precisely consistent from day one about what happened, about your people team, right?
Yes, sir.
And part of that consistency, the questions weren't always as pleasant laid out as Mr. Zumak was asking, right?
All right. Yes, sir.
And you had an opportunity to talk to members of the DA's offices, right?
Yes, sir.
And those communications were recorded, right?
Yes, sir.
communication pretty pleasant, and they just talked to you and asked questions, right?
Yes, sir.
There was no kind of browbeat, I'll call it, but was it?
Not too much, no, sir.
Yeah, it's a little bit different when you cross the street, right?
Yes, sir.
A little bit different when you're talking to the DOJ, right?
Yes, sir.
They try to particularly get you to change stories sometimes, right?
Yes, sir.
They use that same word, they browbeat you, right?
Yes, sir.
There's recorded transcript, 8 pages, where they try to get you to change the fact that you heard somebody's hand on the gun, right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't change that, did you?
No, sir.
You also were asked questions during that same grand jury testimony regarding whether or not you knew Tyree Payne, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think you characterized that testimony and tell me if I'm wrong. They didn't talk much.
Right. Yes, sir.
Was he a pretty quiet guy?
Yes, sir.
And you said that he seemed like a good officer, right?
Yes, sir.
You said he was shy and just handled his business the right way.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
true? Anything about him, and you were asked specifically during that same inquiry where I was talking about the 8 pages where they took you to the ringer about whether or not you heard a gun, you said you stuck to it. I heard it. In fact, that you did hear it, right?
Yes, sir.
But when you're asked those questions regarding to being an issue specifically, have you ever known him to use excessive force? And did he have a reputation for using excessive force? Do you remember your answer?
Yes, sir.
What was the answer?
I don't recall any excessive force or anything used by Officer B.
You ever heard any kind of problems regarding his character and his reputation in the MPD?
No, sir.
It's very.
Short and to the point. Second defense attorney. Whatever, he's back.
You were going through an exercise with Memphis Police Department where they sprayed your face with pepper spray.
Yes, sir.
What happened during that? Can you kind of talk to us about what that exercise is?
So that exercise at the police academy, they spray you with your own pepper spray. And the whole point of the exercise is you got to work through it. You can't just give up. So during that, they ask you a series of questions like what's your license plate number, how long have you been in Memphis. After that, you have to, I believe it was, you had a training dummy laying on the ground. You have to try to handcuff him while you're still fighting pepper spray. And then there's also another training dummy where you have to do a few strikes to him. To also, you still got to keep working through this pepper spray.
You were asked a couple times about pepper spray, and on that night, back January 7, 2023, when you were making a stop, you had been driving, correct?
Yes, sir.
And are you at night, have you always worn glasses since you've been driving?
Yes, sir.
And on that particular night, did you have your glasses on?
Yes, sir.
And I remember you saying that you sprayed everybody, but yours hit the brow and up, right?
Yes, sir.
Did the brunt of it hit the eyeglasses during the time that he was spraying, if you remember?
If I remember, most of it hit my forehead and then it started going down.
Okay. So it wasn't directly in the eyes, in other words, right then, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, I remember on that night, you talked on your, with your camera, some 50 odd minutes. There were 2 different body-worn camera settings, and you talked for a long time, but it seemed like that whole time you were what I call hot, but you're clearing your voice, clearing your throat. Can you tell this jury why you have been clearing your throat and catching your breath during that time frame?
So the pepper spray that they used at the time, it blinded you, obviously, and it also affected your breathing and closed up your sinuses, hence, hacking up, because, you're trying to get it out of your system. And if any of it's in your nose, they also tell you in the academy, to breathe it out your nose. If there's anything in your mouth, you got to get it out.
When you get a bursting lead in your eyes, is it possible to see as good as you can see right now?
No, sir.
Matter of fact, what for a few feet in front of you, can you see anything?
No, sir.
And on that particular night, you remember the intersection?
Yes, sir.
Was there anybody out there stopping traffic and saying, hey, y'all stop, we got to run across these 4 lanes of traffic?
No, sir, not that I remember.
And we running out there in the dark, basically, after having some pepper spray in your eyes.
Yes, sir.
All right. And was a pretty difficult experience.
Yes, sir.
Now, at the academy, you have to get it directly in your eyes, right?
Yes, sir.
They're showing up. trying to show a training video. They muted it. They hit they said prior to playing. It looked like the video is still playing. But they got the mic muted. Unless they probably objected to relevance. I don't know. It's quiet. We couldn't hear. Still no sound. I guess they decided to go on break. Hold on, let me fast forward. Nope, they're not.
That is house was a person was earned X, Y, and Z.
Friend of mine, with Memphis, even we had this kind of right now, Bob is even.
Bonded with. Want you to take a couple so that you already know.
Okay, let's see.
Just one question. I'm saying that night after the incident, you had somewhat described it, but this was similar to fighting Bad Bob. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
And what do you mean by fighting Bad Bob? What's Bad Bob?
So Bad Bob is a training exercise that they do with the police academy. Like I said, they pepper spray you, and it's drills that you have to do so that you already know how strong pepper spray is, if it gets in your eyes, and how to work with it.
And what did they ask you to do after they sprayed you during the Bad Bob exercise? Talk me through it.
So after they spray you, they first tell you, because when they spray you, your eyes are closed. They tell you, well, we want you to take a couple blinks, so that way it gets into your eyes, and they can tell when it hits. They then ask like a series of questions, like your license plate number, where are you at right now, how long have you been living in Memphis, and then after you answer a series of questions, they then tell you to go, I believe it was, do a couple strikes to a dummy, so that way you're fighting with the dummy while you're still blinded with pepper spray. After you do a couple strikes, the team moves on to the next station, which is a training dummy laying on the ground, and it's handcuffing the dummy also while you're blind.
Is it difficult to handcuff the dummy while you're blind?
Yes, sir.
And is it difficult as far as finding where Bad Bob is while you're blind?
Yes, sir.
And it is, according to what you said, Fernetti, that was pretty much similar to what you went through in actual real life, that you correct?
Yes, sir.
Was that a typical type of beat where you had to pepper spray and had to run across 4 lanes of traffic?
No, sir.
And was that one of the most difficult interactions that you had while you were with Memphis Police Department?
It was one of them, yes, sir.
And that was, and as you indicated, it put you all the way back in your frame of mind to being in the academy, having to deal with Bad Bob.
Yes, sir.
That's what it was like.
I'm not gonna be too long, okay?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Like you said, I think you talked to a lot of people.
Yes, sir.
I think you talked once, is that right?
We spoke several times, yes, sir. Yes, sir, something like that.
And you testified in a federal grand jury once, is that correct?
I believe so, yes, sir.
I wanted to go back to the start. Like I said, I'm not trying to be long, but you want to go back to the start. Okay? All right. So it makes sense to me, because often as police officers, it would make sense for you to say we, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's just how we do it. If you're going to write an affidavit or complain about what someone did, you would say the person observed X, Y, and Z, but many other police officers that observed X, Y, and Z.
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That is how it's supposed to work, right?
Yes, sir.
And so it's not uncommon for you to say we and stuff like that. I want to separate, what you actually saw versus, the we, okay?
All right.
All right, so we're on that night, and you said you saw Tyree Nichols speak, but I don't want to take that far, okay? Who is it that's also?
Officer Martin.
And you've been asked the question before whether or not you actually saw Tyree Nichols speak, and yours was not, that it was also Martin that said he saw Tyree Nichols speak. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You were asked previously, so what did you actually see Tyree Nichols do? And your answer was it changed lanes without signaling.
Yes, sir.
Once or twice.
Yes, sir.
And that is a traffic violation, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you see How do you know that when Martin said, I see him speak, is that on the radio or something?
Yes, sir.
So you hear Officer Martin say on the radio, I see a car speeding or whatever.
Yes, sir.
Did you see at that point Officer Martin activate his blue lights?
A couple blocks up, yes, sir.
Couple blocks up.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this car is ahead of y'all,
Yes, sir.
and this one is marked ahead of you,
Yes, sir.
and you're further back.
Mark is ahead of me, I'm in the middle, and Haley's behind me.
And you hadn't seen this car speeding,
Yes, sir.
but you heard Mark say that.
Yes, sir.
You traveled some more blocks,
Yes, sir.
a couple of people, and Martin activates his blue lights.
Yes, sir.
He doesn't keep his blue lights on, though, does he?
No, sir.
He flips them on pretty quickly,
Yes, sir.
and he continues to travel
Yes, sir.
for just a little bit, right?
Yes, sir.
And then he flips them off,
Yes, sir.
and then the cars continue to travel.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we watched the video before of, should I say, the videographer that did the route. Okay? But it sounds like it's not like even Martin had the blue lights on the whole time during his route, right?
All right, yes, sir.
Blue light click on. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but presumably the car that was speeding didn't stop.
All right, yes, sir.
Right? Even if you couldn't see it, pretty obviously it didn't stop, right?
Yes, sir.
So click on the blue lights, that car didn't stop. Click off blue lights.
Yes, sir.
And then at that point, whatever y'all do,
They were following Mr. Nichols.
they follow. They were pursuing, okay?
Yes, sir.
Because it's even against the policy to pursue the car for that offense, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so click blue lights on, car didn't stop, click them off, and we're just gonna sort of follow the car.
Yes, sir.
That's sort of what's going on.
Yes, sir.
And while y'all are following the car, you see the car do the lane change once or twice without the foot.
Yes, sir.
You never see the car going on the incoming traffic. Do you?
Yes, sir.
You never see a car hopping the curb or anything like that.
Yes, sir.
Y'all are just following it, catching back up to it.
Yes, sir.
Y'all do catch back up to it.
Yes, sir.
And when y'all do catch back up to it, blue lights cars that are not, don't look like police cars, right?
Yes, sir.
They're like Dodge Chargers or something.
Yes, sir.
And they're not marked MPD or anything like that. They're probably black. They're black.
Mine was blue.
Dodge Chargers, the lights are even on the inside.
Yes, sir.
So it's just that those pants over like this.
And I believe it had lights inside the grill on the front of the car.
Y'all catch back up to the car, the blue lights back on.
Yes, sir.
Catch back up to the car's actually stopped, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And it's stopped in the left-hand turn.
Yes, sir.
With left-hand turn?
I don't recall the turn signal on.
Left-hand turn.
Yes, sir.
Stop.
Yes, sir.
And this is the point where traffic stop actually watched again, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've been asked about this traffic stop a bunch.
Yes, sir.
In a fair sense, is that correct?
Correct.
Did you ever see, you've been asked this question before, did you ever see Tyree Nichols take a swing at anybody during the traffic stop?
No, sir.
Did you ever see him punch somebody during the traffic stop?
No, sir.
Did you ever see him kick anybody during the traffic stop?
No, sir.
Did he ever cuss at y'all during the traffic stop?
No, sir.
Did he ever spit at y'all during the traffic stop?
No, sir. Not that I know of.
Did he ever threaten y'all during the traffic stop?
No, sir. Not that I know of.
In fact, you actually described what he did as politely resisting.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And you've been previously asked, well, what did y'all do, right?
Yes, sir.
You get out of the car with your gun drawn, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you put it on.
Yes, sir. That's right.
At some point during this conversation, you press the taser up to his leg or something.
Yes, sir.
But that when electricity is not on the taser.
Correct.
Right,
yes, sir.
Yeah, you touch the taser, press up to him.
Yes, sir.
You say something to the, akin to, I'm gonna take your ass or something like that.
Yes, sir.
Who says, I'm gonna break your shit?
I believe that was Officer Haley.
Right, so take your ass, I'm gonna break your shit. He has been, how is not the right word? How is he taken to the ground?
I don't recall how he was taken to the ground. I just know we were on the ground.
We saw how he was taken out of the car with us.
Yes, sir.
So he's taken out of the car, would you say forcefully?
Yes, sir.
You told an officer on the scene that he was persuaded for that car.
Yes, sir.
Persuaded to me sounds like there was a negotiation, ultimately he was persuaded to get out of the car. But he wasn't persuaded, was he?
Yes, sir.
He was forcefully taken from the ball.
Yes, sir.
On the ground.
Yes, sir.
He is being yelled at.
Yes, sir.
He is being threatened.
Yes, sir.
And you do have a taser weapon up to his body.
Yes, sir.
And he is also pepper sprayed.
Not yet at that point.
Something like this.
Yes, sir.
Something like this is pepper sprayed.
Yes, sir.
Before he went on.
Yes, sir.
That's actually that's the one going up to when he went on. Okay. You've been asked previously, well, is it possible that all of that stuff, all those actions, is what makes Tyree Nichols not
Objection calls for speculation.
So, I asked this question previously. Let me get started.
Correct, that's one of the hearing. If I got the hearing correct.
Uh-oh, they said, hold on, objection, nigga. Let's see what we get.
Yes, sir.
That didn't last long.
Threatening to break a ship, correct?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Javon. Morning, Cam.
Yes, sir.
Pepper spray.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You've heard Officer Martin say something, in other words, well, what did you hear Officer Martin say when Tyree was being taken?
He would let go of his gun. Yes, sir.
And to be clear, you're asking questions. I knew that was true. You didn't hear me behind your back.
Correct. That's
You didn't
what I'm saying.
understand hitting with metal or something.
Right, correct.
You heard Officer Martin say,
Let go of my gun.
did you see Tyree Nichols grab his gun?
No, sir.
You just heard Mark say that.
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether or not Tyree Nichols actually grabbed his gun?
No, sir.
Did you in fact speak with Officer Martin after this incident?
Yes, sir.
Did that cause you more doubt as to whether or not Tyree Nichols actually grabbed his gun?
No, sir. I was just asking Martin if I heard what I thought I heard.
Was reference made that it could have been something just tugging on his belt?
Later on, Martin did say that.
Which is entirely different, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here's some boring updates in the Diddy trial. Diddy got on a sweater over a white collar shirt and gray slacks. Judge told prospective jurors the trial is expected to run about 8 weeks, but could run longer than that if necessary. And then there was just one talking about what time his attorney arrived. Yeah, boring stuff. But we'll do what we can.
And it was hearing that as to why Tyree was thrown on the ground.
Yes, sir.
And how this all went so forcefully, and it was forceful.
Yes,
They're
sir.
mostly going to be able to just get documents that they're releasing in trial that day.
So quick.
Yes, sir.
With an individual who testified before wasn't even fighting about it, correct?
Yes, sir.
You describe him as resisting, to be fair, correct?
Yes, sir.
You describe it as polite resistance, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you were very clear that you would not consider that fighting.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yet he was threatened, yet he was pepper sprayed, and as he ran off, he was hit with a taser, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you never went from there to the scene of the criminal activity, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
However, when we watched it, one day ago, we heard you tell somebody, I hope they stomp his ass.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
You regret that.
Yes, sir.
If we watch more video later, we see another comment about Tyree's face and how it looks after this happens. Correct?
Yes, sir.
You regret that comment too.
Yes, sir.
But would you acknowledge that I hope they stomp his ass? There's something to that.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever heard in this police department of the term, the phrase, the concept, some sort of street tax or some sort of street justice or something like that?
Not just for Memphis police. Yes, sir.
More generally, not just.
Just police in general.
You grew up like a police officer, right?
Yes, sir.
And you've heard this before.
Yes, sir. Correct.
You described or have you described before, have you heard, especially from older officers?
Yes, sir.
I think you told me, I think they said that officers have done it like other cars.
Right. Yes, sir.
Old school, you hear them talking about the street tax.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Nowadays, it's not talked about in terms of street taxes.
No, sir.
Is there talking among the officers though that if somebody runs and you get them, that is a chance to get one punch in?
Possibly, yes, sir.
Do you want to try to get in more than one punch?
No, sir.
Why not?
That's that it's too much.
One punch is justice for running.
No, sir.
What is it?
Just put handcuffs on.
Just put handcuffs on.
Keep them under control, yes, sir.
Well, prior you've been asked if somebody runs.
Right. Yes, sir.
That is common for officers, not common. And sometimes officers try to get a little, in your word, street justice.
Yes, sir.
And you have acknowledged that one punch may be, I don't want to say acceptable, but let's say acceptable.
Possibly, yes, sir.
For more than one punch, one punch.
Yes, sir.
And I think we talked, a punch can also be called pieces, right? A piece.
Yes, sir.
So one piece, a lot of pieces done.
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, you watched that Skycop video, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Is that the something that you were hoping for?
No, sir.
Is that the irony thing?
Yes, sir. Can you repeat
Is
that?
that the irony thing that you were hoping for?
Yes, sir.
That's all, Judge. Good morning.
Good morning.
You talked, Mr. Hagan, just asked you about Officer Martin seeing the Blue Nissan Center speakers, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you relied on that to initiate the stop, or participate in initiating the stop, correct?
Yes, sir.
Even though you hadn't seen speeding in that book.
Yes, sir.
Am I correct that you did see traffic violations by that Blue Nissan Center?
Yes, sir.
No, means to this police, his witnesses. Thank you. What traffic violations did you see the Blue Nissan Center engage in on the Ridgeway?
Fleeing from the police and multiple lane changes that were.
And did you see traffic violations by the Centro on Rains after the turn?
Yes, sir.
You were asked by Mr. Zuma about your speed and looking at your speedometer while watching the video. Yes, you recall that.
Yes, sir.
And do you recall what speed you reached on the Rains?
About 60 miles an hour.
And your iPhone camera showed Garmin that you had in motion, correct?
Yes, sir.
What does the Garmin, what does it show when you exceed the speed limit?
It turns bright red in the bottom of the corner.
Now, did you see Andrews Haley used soft hands control as part of that stop?
Yes, sir.
When?
When you pull this and nickel out the bottom.
And did you hear Anna Parker say, I felt somebody tug on my belt? during the traffic stop?
Later on, yes, sir.
During the traffic stop, what did you hear Martin say?
Let go of my gun.
And you reacted to that?
Yes, sir.
At the traffic stop, did he ever say anything about tugging on his belt?
No, sir.
And it's what was said during the stop that was important, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had the train to assess the threat at the time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Again, Judge, I think this is witness on this lady.
Great questions.
Okay, any further questions?
This is my,
You're on.
it's very happy. You asked me months ago, about, you brought up on the police officer, right?
Yes, sir.
And yeah, that remember, how this was sparked, correct?
Yes, sir.
And ended up reaching out to all those police officers, right?
Yes, sir.
And you know the term street taxes, street taxes, and you also were asked questions about having talks across the street at the federal building, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you talked across the street at the federal building, now you said, she asked you something about testifying one time in front of the grand jury, right?
Yes, sir.
But you actually met over there a number of times, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were asked times again about being that related to street tax, as well as everybody else on that was part of the story, right?
Yes, sir.
And am I correct in your statement that you never heard Mr. Bean refer to a street tax?
Right. Yes, sir.
And you never heard Mr. Bean administering a street tax to anybody, right?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you were asked questions about seeing videos. And you saw videos potentially over 302 about getting engaged, say, I guess called 302, right? You know what 302 is? You don't know.
Yes, sir.
All right. You did give statements to the feds, to the federal, I guess the Department of Justice, and members of that, U.S. Attorney's Office. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
And he might not, if you haven't seen them, don't worry about it, but you haven't seen a typed up form of the statements that you gave.
Not that I recall.
Do you remember that you were eventually shown videos regarding the incident?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you were first asked questions, you weren't shown any videos, right?
Not that I remember. Yes, sir.
Right, but when they did show you videos, you see yourself, it looked like Mr. Bing was just trying to get him into handcuffs, right?
Yes, sir.
And you, according to what you said at that time, said that it didn't seem like he's doing anything wrong when you're looking at the video, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else to say?
Yeah, I know what points the videos we're talking about. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He's on a video of Mr. Smith pressing Mr. Nichols down and Mr. Martin's soccer case fighting him.
They weren't talking about Mr. Martin.
Okay. So they were just asking about the movements.
I was talking about Mr. Perry, was only asking about Mr. Dean.
Soccer case wrong.
Yes, sir.
All those cases, that's wrong.
Yes, sir.
Those kids out here, on the ground wrong.
Yes, sir.
Anything else with this witness?
Okay.
Absolutely wrong. Numbers, step down.
Witness dismissed. Judge said, bring y'all ass up here. I don't know what he doing now. They calling the other witness in. I'm moving expeditiously.
Good morning. Would you state and spell your first and last name for the record, please?
This is Jordan, Jordan, Riley, R-I-L-E-Y.
He look like Busy Bone.
Riley, have you ever been the victim of theft?
Yes.
You would tell the jury when and what happened.
About almost, not quite 3 years ago, around October. It been right around Halloween, actually the night after Halloween. Of course, was at the house I was living in at that time. We had some friends over for a Halloween party. Everybody left. The next day, one of the friends that was there lived down the road, drove by the house and called and said, "Hey, there's glass all around your car." Of course, at that point, I go outside and I look at it, and of course, my window had been busted out. A car had been ran through. So,
Halloween of what year?
Would have been 22.
And what was stolen from your car?
Of course, my wallet, which of course had money in it, some debit cards, some old IDs and stuff like that that I didn't really use anymore on a consistent basis. And of course, I did have an everyday carry, as I do have my concealed carry license, and it was a Ruger LCP Max.
From approach, that's considered 29 to the witness. And ask you to flip through those pictures on the bottom. Do you recognize anything in those pictures?
Yes.
What do you recognize? Well, does any of that depict things that were stolen from your car that night?
Yeah, the last one.
And what is that?
That would be my high school student ID card.
And for what high school is it?
Paducah Tillman.
Is that what you're talking about, was stolen from your car, Halloween night 2022?
Yes, sir.
How do you know Tyree Nichols?
I have no knowledge of him or any association to him.
Did Tyree Nichols have your permission to have any of your property at any point?
No, I've never met him.
Maybe for questions for this witness. This is come up.
Sir, you've seen your photo ID. Is this one the first time you ever seen that photo ID since the night it was stolen?
That's the last time I've seen it, like as far as, it being in possession of somewhere.
And you did do a police report, I don't know about that. Did you do a police report on this break-in?
Yes, I did.
And were those items listed in the police report that you were missing?
That was included in the wallet that I told them that it was stolen.
Have you been contacted by law enforcement or family members of anyone at all to say, hey, we have your photo ID?
No.
On that. Very good. Oh, let's see.
Do you know the name Keyshawn Ayers?
Who?
Keyshawn Ayers.
No.
You aware that he was arrested, prosecuted, and pled guilty to a series of car break-ins on that Halloween night in that neighborhood?
I do not. I never had to go. No, sir.
You have no idea how your ID ended up in Tyree Nichols' home?
None at all. I went to sleep that night after, of course, hanging out with some friends, and then woke up the next morning, had filed police report and everything, and then had to be at work the next hour. So.
Now, years later, you find out somehow that car ended up in Tyree Nichols' home.
Yeah. Just finding out about it.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Anything else for this witness? No. All right, so those are all the questions we have for you, so you can step down for you.
Bring y'all ass back up to this bitch. I think that witness was pointless. How he get your ID? He don't know. Doesn't mean Tyree stole it.
to create turnover.
So you told us where our testimony is there.
Mr. Turner, will you please state your first and last name and spell for the record?
Yes, first name is Gregory, last name Turner, Gregory, Turner.
And are you currently employed with the Memphis Police Department?
Yes, sir, I am.
And what precinct are you in?
I'm in Range Precinct.
And how long have you been with the Memphis Police Department?
14 years.
And during those 14 years, have you come into contact with Gary's Bean?
Yes.
How did you come into contact with Gary's Bean?
I was in the primary FTO.
And can you tell this jury what FTO is?
Field training officer.
How does that FTO program work?
When he comes out the academy, he gets signed to FTO, which I was assigned him. It works in phases. We have 4 phases. He comes to me first phase, 30 days. Go to another FTO in the second and third phase for 30 days each. And then he'll come back to me for the 4th phase until he finishes up his remaining days.
And during that time frame after being an FTO, let me step back. You said you were his FTO for 2 of those 4 phases.
Yes, sir.
And so you were the first phase and then the last phase.
Yes, sir. 4 phases.
And after the 2 terms as FTO, did you still work in the same precinct with Mr. Bean?
Yes, sir.
And this would have been around the year 2020 to 2022.
Yes, sir. For that time, I can't say what time. I think like 2021 and 22, somewhere like that.
And from do you remember Mr. Bean going from your precinct to the Scorpion unit?
I remember, yes. I remember he told me he was joining that unit over here.
And to your understanding, was that an application process or did you?
Hey man, whoever did them sketches of Diddy in court need their ass whooped. I'm finna post them, but they need their ass whooped. Give me a second, y'all, because it's going to stop playing when I go to my commune wall. They need their ass whooped, though. That is not right.
What is that, Trey, that you just sent me?
The first sketches of Diddy in court this morning.
I thought that's what they
got that man looking like a damn primate, a crackhead or something. They need their ass whooped.
People did make him look. I seen one photo where they made him look like he had aged by 20 years. I said, Lord have mercy.
That's terrible.
You get picked off the merit of your work.
They on my commune wall, y'all.
And so both as your field training officer time frame and during that 2-year period, y'all still working out of the same precinct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Can you tell this jury about the officer you know as Tyree?
Tadere's he's a humble guy, well-mannered, listen. He's probably one of my favorite trainees that we call. He went above and beyond. I didn't have to repeat myself twice, which I really respected him. Superb young fellow. When I had, he caused me in trouble, constantly, listen to me, listen to my guidance, and understood where I was coming from. Just overall, just a good young man during that time that I had.
Yeah. And during the time that he would have been assigned to you, he was right out of college. Did you know that?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And he had, so he would have been around 21, 22 years old.
Yeah,
pretty young guy.
Young, yes, sir.
As a young man, you can take his job seriously and show maturity.
Oh yeah, yes, sir. At that age, I would have thought he was 21 at that time.
In other words, was he getting himself together or was he got together?
He was put together. He was well put together. Yes, sir.
And is there any critiques as far as his character that you have and his reputation in that precinct and in the Memphis Police Department?
His reputation was good officer. That's how you come involved in that unit that you went to as being a good proven officer on the streets.
And then you don't have any critiques of his character at all?
No, sir. No.
Back to you, John.
I'm not wrong, I say.
Mr. Turner, you said you worked with Mr. Bean 2 years, 90 days. Sound about right?
I thought I trained with him for probably 60 days, maybe about 50, 60 days. But we worked together once he finished his phases. We worked together until he turned we had a year on. He had a year, so that's when he came off probation. So I can't remember when he technically went to the unit, but I know shortly after he came off probation, he went there. So.
And any time you knew him, you said a good guy.
Yeah.
But you agree with me? Good people can make bad choices, right?
Yeah.
Anything else to this witness? So those are all Western halfway through. Sorry. Next witness. Next we'll call Taylor. So you saw this where her testimony here today will be the truth and nothing but the truth, and all you got. I don't think that's easy. So you don't so you please state and spell your full name for the school.
Kevion Taylor, K-E-V as a Victor, D-O-N, last name Taylor, T-A-Y-L-O-R.
And Taylor, what's your current occupation?
I'm a pastor of a church and I'm an attorney.
And you're licensed in the state of Mississippi?
I am, yes, sir.
And do you know a person by the name of Tyree?
Yes, sir, I do.
And how long have you known Mr. Bean?
I've known Mr. Bean for about 7 years.
Now, you said you're in the fact that you met Mr. Bean 7 years ago. Where did you meet Mr. Bean?
I met Mr. Bean while we were students at the University of Mississippi.
At that time, how did you first come in contact with him?
I came into contact with him when he wanted to join a fraternity on campus. I was a chapter president of that fraternity, and he was one of the applicants, and I got to observe him and get to know him from that point.
And you said you got to observe him prior to being a student at the University of Mississippi. Had you had any military service?
Yes, sir. I enlisted in the Mississippi Army National Guard when I was in high school, served all through undergrad and law school as well.
Are you also trained as a firefighter?
Yes, sir. I'm a certified fireman in the state of Mississippi. I joined the volunteer department when I was 15 years old, and then when I got to college, I joined the department in Lafayette County as well, and I served all through college.
And so you've been in contact with people that have to serve as a team, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And in your experience as a firefighter, experience in the military, experience in your fraternity, and your observation with Mr. Bean, how would you describe his character based off of your background and experience?
I would say he's humble. I'd say he's a man of integrity. I'd say he's a man of truth, and he's a friend, I would say.
And when you describe the integrity that he has, was there a particular situation that occurred while he was, and you said that you were your chapter president, did Mr. Bean ever, sort of while you would have been in law school, the president of that same chapter?
He did, actually. So the year after I ceased being the president of the chapter, Darius Bean became the chapter president.
And was there a situation where his character could have been tested in this?
Absolutely. We had some chapter members who took some funds out of the chapter account that they were not authorized to take in the sum of over $3,000. Bean and I found out about it. Of course, I wasn't chapter president at the time, but he let me know, and I stopped what I was doing, stopped what he was doing. We went to the bank immediately, and we rectified the situation, and that included confronting those members that had committed that wrong and letting everybody else know what had happened.
And is there anything about his personality, character, etc., that would lead you as a member of the bar, and the club, etc., from coming to this court and testifying to this jury regarding that man's character that would give you problems about doing that?
Absolutely not. As you know, as a member of the bar, as a fireman, as a military officer, and a member of the club, I have raised my hand and taken oaths like all the other officers of this court have done, and I take my oath seriously because I know that there's another judge that's judging on whether or not we tell the truth or not. So absolutely not. There's nothing that gives me reprehension about being a witness on his behalf.
Good man.
Absolutely.
That's what you do. All right. Same topic, Same.
So you said in that incident that you and Mr. Perry just talked about, where the money was stolen, Bean was the president at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
And the money was taken, he notified you immediately, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You all rectified that situation immediately?
Yes, ma'am.
And you all confronted the people who did something immediately?
Yes, ma'am.
So he does know how to do all those things, right?
I would assume so.
That's all I can.
No problem. All right, thanks, sir.
The court was called for application. don't swear firm to the testimony that they will be the truth and nothing but the truth. You got it. All right, let's see, sir. Can you state and spell the full name for the court?
Brian McKinney, Bryant, McKinney, McKinney.
Okay, currently, you work in corporate security,
Yes, sir. I'm in corporate security leadership.
and did you go through the police academy with Mr. Darius Bean?
Yes, sir. I did.
Do you remember what class that was?
133rd.
And you, did you know Mr. Bean prior to going to the academy?
No, sir. I did not.
And after the academy, did you all maintain friendship?
Yes, sir. We did.
And in your experience while in the academy and subsequent to the academy, did you work with the MPD after coming out of the academy?
Yes, sir.
That's not gonna amplify your voice, the reporters. And you speak up, we'll just keep your voice up. You worked with MPD after coming out of the academy?
Yes, sir.
Were you all in the same precinct at the time?
No, sir.
And you indicated that y'all did go to the academy together. Can you describe Mr. Bean as a student in that academy?
As a student in the academy, he was always prepared, always seeking to try to help people throughout the academy when we were doing physical fitness or tests or anything like that. He always just had a mild-mannered mentality and always kept a level head to try to just help others just be the best they could.
If somebody came up and said that Bean such a loud mouth, I can't believe it. Would that shock you?
It would definitely shock me.
He's been pretty quiet guy.
Yes, he is.
Would you consider him a serious guy?
When serious matters arise, yes.
In a sense of humor, buddy.
Right, yes, I always had a sense of humor.
Did he take his job and what you all were trying to do as law enforcement officers to be at that time? Did he take that seriously?
He did. He honestly did. We felt that the job was very serious and there was a need to kind of help keep the city safe and play his part in doing so.
Now, after when you came out of the academy, did you all keep in contact with each other?
Yes, sir, we did.
We're still friends to this day, right?
Yes, sir, we are.
Now, would you describe Mr. Bean as a person just kind of on his own program, or did Mr. Bean try to follow the book, the man by the book?
Definitely a man by the book.
Yeah, and when you say by the book, do you have an example of how by the book Mr. Bean is?
Yes, sir, I do. When he first gave me the call that he got to OCU, it was a great time for him because he got a take-home job as well. And during that time, he was having some vehicle maintenance issues. And he called me. He was like, do you mind taking me to get something to eat? Because we stayed in close proximity. And I was like, why? You got a take-home car. He was like, well, no, can't use a take-home car if it's not work duties. And so I had to go pick him up and take him up the street, even though he had a take-home car, but he was not a book no matter what it cost, or he didn't use his badge or anything given from the department to, for his own benefit.
You had to run, you had to go to his house, run him to the burger store or whatever you could have, and he had a car outside that OCU had.
Yes, sir.
And that's how by the book he is.
Yes, sir.
Is that how he's always?
Boy, stop.
Yes, sir, to this day.
Do you have any problem if you had to serve in policing the same way with him at this point, with him being an officer with you?
No, sir, I have no problem.
Anything about his character that you have criticism of?
No, sir, you never have to second guess him.
Now.
Oh, shit. I ain't no truth to drop.
Did you go to an exercise in the academy called Bad Bob?
Yes, sir, I did.
What is the Bad Bob exercise?
It's an exercise where we were in the gym, if I remember correctly, and we were pepper sprayed. And we were pepper spraying. They asked us a series of questions, some related to what is our tag number, and to give the chemical agent some time to kind of really sit in. And after that, we were asked to run down the court and grab a kind of like a dummy that weighed a certain amount of pounds and hit the dummy, if I'm not mistaken, until the dummy stopped resisting. And then we were asked to then try to handcuff the dummy.
Is that a part of an exercise that you think could go into your muscle memory? In other words, if you're in a situation like that, that would help you if you are facing somebody resistant.
Yes, sir.
And if you are faced with being pepper sprayed trying to arrest a person, does that create any difficulties?
Yes, sir. It was still even difficult. They had videos, but it was still even difficult on the dummy that wasn't moving when we were doing that training exercise.
I'm going to pull up a video. I'm going to ask you if you can identify. Yes, this is you know, yes, all right. Hey, John. Now, see, can you identify Jerry, who that person is?
That's myself. Yes, sir.
And is this prior to you being hit in the face with pepper spray?
At this point, I think we press play is right when they're about to spray me, if I'm not mistaken.
license?
Yeah, that's what it's sprayed.
He got his hand up. He sprayed it.
You got the volume on.
And they showing this nigga training video.
Pause it.
Nah.
Little pain, not pain.
A lot of pain.
If you recall, are they saying anything to you this time?
Yeah, they're. I think they started asking me questions about my tag number, driver's license number. Then they kind of told me to gather myself so that I can.
You remember telling me to go fight Bad Bob?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they asked me to point to him.
Do you remember what you're saying during this time?
Stop resisting.
Stop resisting, stop resisting. And I apologize. I knew we did this before he started. For the record, you need to.
Video started at 12:22. Stopped at 13:55.
All right, thank you. Now, even today, that would have been about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember that experience to this day?
Yes, sir.
Somebody says that, hey, would you do Bad Bob for us in front of the jury? Would that be something that you want to come in here and do?
Not long.
Now, during the exercise, you're allowed to put one hand over one eye, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're also advised to close the other eye that's being sprayed to, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that's somewhat different than if you have your eyes open and somebody sprays, right?
That's correct.
You think it would have been more intense had you had your eyes open and got a direct spray?
Yes, sir. And to be honest, I still tried to time to close my other eye.
And so, just as a recap, as far as Mr. Dean's character, you have no criticism, right?
No, sir.
Right. In the second phase, being pepper sprayed and being asked to stop a person that's resisting, and then subsequently, it's not catching on there, but you also have to put handcuffs on something, right?
Correct.
Is that difficult, even in a controlled environment?
Extremely.
All right.
Very briefly, Mr. McKinney, you sprayed one eye at DK, correct?
Correct.
And the other eye closed.
Yes, sir.
And it looked like, were you pinching your nose so you didn't inhale pepper spray?
Yes, we were told, if I remember correctly, to kind of cover the nose area.
And they sprayed closed eye.
Well, the eye was supposed to be open, but yes.
And then you had to blink.
Yes, blink to get it in the eye. Yes, sir.
That experiment that you did with the department as part of your training, prior to squirting you in the eye with one squirt, were things tense? Were you scared?
Yes, sir. I was scared. It felt like sand, burning sand in your eye.
Listen to my question. Before they squirted you in the eye, was your life in jeopardy? Were you scared of anything?
No, sir.
And you get squirted, you have all your friends around you.
Good morning, Flavor with the tea.
Did you then panic once you did get shot in the eye with the pepper spray?
I did.
That's all that.
You see the awesome key?
No. No.
Okay. When you were going through like Bad Bob, this was a training exercise, right?
Yes.
It was supposed to help you all be able to withstand the effects of pepper spray, correct?
To get lifelike experience as close as possible.
Gotcha. And so you only did Bad Bob one time in the academy, is that right?
That's correct.
So you're not repeating Bad Bob over and over, are you?
Correct.
And are you telling the jury that Memphis Police Department say, hey, when you get out in the streets, punch people in the head? You're not saying it, right?
That's correct. They didn't say that.
They never told you out in the streets, kick people in the head, did they?
No, ma'am.
Just about that.
Wait, just to discuss that list of questions. Did anybody say, hey, this is a disclaimer as it relates to Bad Bob, don't fight a resistor like this?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Did anybody while you're in the academy say this is not the way to actually try to stop somebody resisting? Did they say that to you?
No, sir.
As a matter of fact, did they say, advise or encourage you to strike back Bob with a lot of force. And that was during the time that they sprayed you, correct?
Correct.
And then after striking him with force, you were asked to put the handcuffs on.
Correct.
Anything else this way?
Good follow-up defense.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury is looking en route and not here. We're going to go ahead and excuse you all for lunch this time. Can you please make sure you leave it open for chairs? Please do not suffocate. Nobody back here.
All right, let's see. Let me skip forward and forward. Okay. Nope. Let me go to the 5 o'clock. Okay, they backing the seal back up. I see heads moving. That could mean nothing though. Let's see. Good grief.
Tell us your name and spell your name for the court.
My name is Dr. Jane Turner, Janeturner.
And you said Dr. Jane Turner, what's your occupation?
I'm a physician. I'm a trained forensic pathologist.
And when I always contacted you about this case, what did we ask you to do?
You asked me to review materials related to the death of Mr. Tyree Nichols and to tell you my opinion as to the cause of his death.
And what in your background qualifies you to give opinion testimony on that issue?
I'm a board certified forensic pathologist. I've practiced for over 25 years. I've performed well over 5,000 autopsy examinations, including autopsies on individuals who have had injuries from assaults, motor vehicle accidents, gunshot wounds, falls. I've also given lectures on traumatic brain injury.
And I think you went to medical school somewhere.
I did. I went to St. Louis University School of Medicine.
And is that where you live now in St. Louis?
Yes.
Have you ever been called upon to give this type of expert testimony before?
Yes.
How many occasions?
With depositions and trials well over 200 times.
That's what it's about. Turner, what is that you have in your hands?
It's my curriculum vitae, which is essentially a resume.
And is that up to date?
This is from November 2024, so it's close.
John, we would do that as the first exhibit for Dr. Turner. Any objection?
No.
Us through the steps you go through in order to make a determination about the cost of it.
I review records provided to me, police investigative reports, and in this case, videos. I also review medical records and the autopsy report and autopsy photographs and some trial transcripts.
And is that all the records that you reviewed?
Yes.
And what did you find out from that?
That Mr. Nichols was assaulted. He was struck in the head. He was unsteady on his feet after that. He was eventually attended to by emergency medical services and taken to the hospital, where he was already showing signs of shock. He was initially had no pulse, no blood pressure, wasn't breathing. So urgent care was administered to him, including intubating and putting a tube into his airway so that he could have his breathing supported. And he was administered medicines to help his heart function better. And he was subjected to imaging studies to determine why he had cardiac arrest.
What kind of imaging studies?
He had a CT scan without contrast of the head. He also had CT scans without contrast of the chest and neck. He had a repeat CT scan a few days later. Repeat CT scan of the head a few days later.
What were the results of those scans?
The results showed that of the head that he did have soft tissue injury of his scalp from the assault, but he didn't have any skull fractures. He didn't have any bleeding around the brain or in the brain. There was no real evidence on imaging that he had brain injury, and yet clinically he had myoclonic activity. It's a type of seizure, and that activity was improved when he was given anti-seizure medication.
And what else did you find out from the medical records?
He had shock affecting all the major organ systems. So his brain wasn't functioning, his lungs weren't functioning, he had to be on a respirator. His liver went into shock. It was described clinically as shock liver. His kidneys were shutting down such that.
You used term shock. What do you mean by that?
Shock means when your body reacts to an insult to the system. There's septic shock, that's when you have an infection and your body overreacts to the presence of that infection. In this instance, Mr. Nichols had neurogenic shock. He had a reaction to the head injury, and that caused his body to overreact to that injury by his heart failing, his lungs failing, his liver failing, his kidneys failing.
Did you also review the autopsy that Dr. Wilson?
Yes.
And what did that show?
That showed that Mr. Nichols had a response to the head injury in that he had hemorrhage in his brain eventually. So on the initial imaging scan, he didn't have any visible injuries to the brain. But by the 10th, he did have hemorrhaging on one side of his brain and on the outside of the brain. So in reviewing the medical records and correlating those findings, I found that he had elevated blood pressures after he was admitted to the hospital, but after he had that first CT scan, indicating to me that the hemorrhages in the brain were part of a reaction, that those hemorrhages weren't from the assault itself, otherwise they would have, not directly, otherwise they would have been visible on the initial CT scan. They developed later, and they developed later because when there's trauma to the brain, there can be an adrenaline rush. The body reacts by pushing out adrenaline, and that can cause high blood pressures, which he did have. And those high blood pressures can cause bleeding in the brain.
What was Dr. Ross's conclusion as to the cause of death?
Blunt force trauma of the head.
Do you disagree with that or agree with that?
I agree with it.
Did you take a different path to get to your conclusion than Dr. Ross did?
Yes.
Explain that path.
Well, I looked at the medical records going forward. So as I described, I saw the CT scan, the initial CT scan, that didn't show any injuries to the brain. And that's why a second CT scan was performed, because the doctors couldn't figure out why Mr. Nichols was as sick as he was, and he was in shock. And the second CT scan showed that in the interim, between the January 7th CT scan and the January 10th CT scan, he had developed this hemorrhage. And also in that period, he had elevated blood pressures.
Did that have something to do with how did the elevated blood pressure get rid of that?
Well, the best estimate is that Mr. Nichols was without a properly functioning heart for 25 minutes or so before he got to the hospital. The brain is very dependent on the heart to provide it with blood and oxygen. When the brain doesn't get the blood and oxygen it needs, that causes not only damage to the brain, but to the blood vessels in the brain. And the blood vessels get damaged and weakened. And if you have a surge in blood pressure, those weakened blood vessels will leak blood.
And that was the result, that what caused the hemorrhage?
Yes.
And then how did the hemorrhage relate to the cause of death?
It relates to it because if Mr. Nichols had not sustained that head injury, he wouldn't have had that brain hemorrhage. So the cause of death is still blunt head trauma.
How would you describe the major difference between your path to that and Dr. Ross?
But it appears that Dr. Ross saw that there were hemorrhages in the brain and concluded that it was from blunt head trauma.
Now, are you familiar with the term rhabdomyolysis?
Yes.
And what is rhabdomyolysis?
Rhabdomyolysis is the destruction of muscle cells in a great quantity and suddenly. And with that destruction of muscle cells, protein gets released into the blood, and that protein damages the kidneys.
And did that figure into Mr. Nichols' diagnosis?
He was diagnosed on January 9th with rhabdomyolysis.
And did the objective findings from the medical records support that diagnosis?
Yes.
Dr. Ross indicated that the trauma of the arm could have been the source of the rhabdomyolysis.
He does say that. In
Excuse
the
me.
medical records, the rhabdomyolysis is described mostly as mild.
Damn allergies.
And he was diagnosed with rhabdomyolysis on January 9th, but his kidneys were already damaged. By January 8th, Mr. Nichols was receiving dialysis for his damaged kidneys. So he came into the hospital with evidence of damaged kidneys. On January 9th, he had begun dialysis. On January 10th, he was diagnosed with rhabdomyolysis. And then I forgot one other piece of information. On January 7th, an analysis was performed of his urine, and the urine did not show any protein related to rhabdomyolysis in his urine. So the rhabdomyolysis developed later, subsequent to Mr. Nichols already having such severe kidney disease that he had to undergo dialysis.
And did the rhabdomyolysis have any effect on his cause of death?
No.
Assuming that Mr. Nichols received a kick to his arm at some point prior to going to the hospital, but that didn't have any effect on the cause of death?
No.
That's all the questions I have.
Now next, item very good now. State.
Dr. Hunter, just to be clear for the jury, you said a lot of very impressive words. The beating that Mr. Nichols took is what
The injury to the head, yes.
that's right.
Thank you.
Oh, Robert Paul. Robert Paul?
So you solemnly swear from the testimony you give the truth and nothing but the truth so help you God? Yes, Your Honor. Is that so?
Could you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
My name is Robert Long, Robert Long.
And Mr. Long, am I correct that you are here pursuant to subpoena?
Yes, sir.
And when were you employed on January 7th, 2023?
Memphis Fire Department.
And what was your position with the fire department on that day?
Firefighter EMT.
And what engine were you riding on January 7th, 2023?
Engine 55.
Did you, on engine 55, respond to a call at Ross and Reigns?
Yes. I apologize.
I'm going to play a portion of a clip from a video that will be marked into evidence. And I'm going to stop it at one point and ask if you recognize yourself. This is Preston Hempkill's body cam paused at 20:37:25. Do you recognize yourself in that clip?
Yes, sir, I do. I have the Memphis Fire pullover on with the radio strap on.
And pretty much center of the screen?
Yes, sir.
And that is you responding as an EMT to a call at the intersection of Ross and Reigns, January 7th, 2023, correct?
Yes, sir.
And to your left on the screen there, can you identify that person? Stop at a bad spot. Should I try again?
No, sir. That's on the far left side of the screen, halfway cut off. That's advanced EMT, Michael Sandridge.
And he responded with you back, correct?
Yes, sir.
And was the person you were called out to treat at Ross and Reigns at that time?
Yes, sir. That was we were called out for Officer Hill.
Okay. And did you learn that there was somebody else that needed to be treated?
Yes, sir, on that scene.
Okay. You learned that somebody else needed to be treated while you were at that scene at Boston Ranch, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was, the person that needed to be treated was a suspect, correct?
Yes, sir.
And was he at Boston Ranch?
No, sir.
Where was he?
We were told later in the video, if it was play on, that he was at a different location of the Castlegate lane.
Okay. And did Engine 55 go to that location?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you got there, was Castlegate being blocked by several police cars?
Yes, sir.
Where did Engine 55 park?
We parked at the intersection of Castlegate and Ross, about a block away.
Okay. And what did you do next?
My base EMT informed me to grab our blue bag, and we dismounted from the engine, and we moved up to I think it was Castlegate and Bear Creek, that intersection that he was at. So we dismounted and took our equipment out there.
What equipment did you take to dispense your blue bag?
My base EMT partner grabbed the cardiac monitor, which is a heart monitor that's above me. I'm not too sure of the specifics of it. And then I grabbed the blue bag, which is our bandaging equipment and some medications that are in there.
It's the trauma treatment equipment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Going to play another portion of the video from Desmond Mills's body worn camera. I'll stop it and ask you to identify yourself. If you can. Can you identify yourself? This Officer Mills's body worn camera is stopped at 2050-07. Can you identify yourself?
Yes, sir. I'm just a little bit offset from center. I am looking down, standing next to the patrol car.
Okay, and although not visible from this clip, the suspect that you're there to treat was seated up against that police car, correct?
Yes, sir. Our patient was.
Patient. And who is to the left of you with the yellow shoulder patch in this and cap?
That is my advanced communication partner.
And his name?
His name is Michael Sandridge.
Now, are you employed by the Memphis Fire Department today?
No, sir.
When were you tried?
January 30th, 2023.
And to your knowledge, was it related to your conduct on January 7th, 2023?
Yes, sir.
Now, on January 7th, 2023, when you got to Castlegate and Bear Creek, you observed a person later known to you as Tyree Nichols, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you spoke to him.
Yes, sir.
What did he tell you?
He told me his name and his age.
How was he sitting?
He was sitting upright against the patrol vehicle.
Sitting in a normal seated position?
A little bit canted off to the right.
Okay. What did his head and face look like?
He had a bump on his head, and then he had dry blood under his nose, and then he had a busted lip.
Was there any active bleeding about the face?
No, sir.
What else did he tell you as you spoke with him?
I asked him if he had consumed any alcohol. He admitted to having alcohol, and then I asked him if he had taken any drugs. He did not confirm nor deny that he had drugs.
How did his speech appear?
It was a little slurred, but it was, I took that as consistent with being under the influence of alcohol.
How did his breathing appear?
A little rapid. He was still breathing fine. He still had open airway, but it was a little rapid. So I'm assuming he just got done running before he was placed in that position.
Was he alert?
Yes, sir.
How about oriented?
Yes, sir.
What did he request from you?
To stand him up and uncuff him.
What was his pulse like?
I didn't get a physical pulse on him.
Could you tell by whether he had a good pulse or not based upon your interaction with you?
Yes, sir. Just by his movements, I could tell that he had a good pulse. He was able to move all of his limbs on his own, so that tells me that he has a good pulse.
Did you learn how he obtained injury, the facial and head injuries that you just described?
I was told that he ran, and that from the police officers, and that when they got to, I assumed that he was tackled just consistent with the injuries that I noticed because they had to stop him from running from him.
What about any pepper spray?
I didn't hear from when we were at the scene at Ross and Rains. Officer Hemphill said that there was pepper spray that was used on that scene. That's what inclined me to think that pepper spray was probably used on him.
Do you smell any pepper spray? Every aspect?
No, sir, I didn't.
Did you examine his pupils?
Yes, sir, I did.
And how would you describe his pupils?
His pupils were pinpoint.
And what did the pinpoint pupils indicate to you and cause you to do?
They indicated to me that he was under the influence of some sort of drug, and so it caused me to call for an ambulance.
Why call for an ambulance since you're an EMT?
To get a higher level of care to the scene, such as a paramedic.
Did that occur?
Yes, sir.
Who was the paramedic that arrived with the ambulance?
Yes, sir. That was a paramedic, Jesse Guy.
Paramedic has more training than an EMT?
Yes, sir.
Who else arrived with the ambulance?
His partner, the EMT, Jalen Jones.
Did Mr. Nichols' condition change from alert to oriented while you were there with him?
Yes, sir.
How did it change?
He went from alert to sorry, I'm trying to get my words together here. He went from alert to responsive to painful stimuli.
Okay, and for those of us who have no medical training, starting with your question, what does responsive to pain mean?
So what we'll do as an EMT is if we notice that status has changed, we will administer a sternal rub. And so it's just taking the knuckle of your fist and just rubbing on their chest to start painful stimuli, and that usually causes like either a muscle jerk, and that tells it that they're responsive to pain. If they didn't react at all, then it's unresponsive.
Okay, so upon arrival, he's alert in order, right?
Yes, sir.
Stays that way for several minutes?
Yes, sir.
And he's that way when you call for the ambulance?
Alert?
Alert morning?
Yes, sir.
Ambulance call was because of the pinpoint people?
Yes, sir.
Describe the time frame between his status changing to responsive to pain and the arrival of paramedic guy in the ambulance.
I'm not exact on how long it took. I think it was maybe when I did my sternal rub, maybe around 30 seconds to 35 seconds because they were coming up as I was doing my sternal rub.
So the change in status of responsive to pain is within seconds of paramedic arrival. Okay. 30 to 45 seconds is your best guess, a year or 2 years later.
Yes, sir, if I had to estimate.
Upon arrival, did paramedic guy take over the medical care?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, did you go get the oxygen bag?
Yes, sir.
The oxygen bag was back at the engine on Ross Lane, correct?
Yes, sir.
Until then, Mr. Nichols had not administered oxygen, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, Mr. Nichols leaves Castlegate and Bear Creek in the ambulance, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who drove the ambulance?
I drove the ambulance, sir.
And where did you drive it?
I took it to St. Francis Park, off of 5959 Park Avenue, under the guidance of the paramedic.
St. Francis Hospital here in Memphis, Tennessee, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who was seated in the passenger seat during that drive?
A police officer was in the passenger seat. I didn't catch a name.
Do you recall if he was a big, heavy set guy?
He was a little bit on the more built side. He did have a beard and he had a beanie on.
Do you recall whether he had any hair?
He had facial hair, but he had a beanie on over his head. It had MPD on it.
Do you know if that was Officer Mills?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know the names of the officers.
Who was in the back of the ambulance with Mr. Nichols?
It was paramedic Jesse Guy. It was advanced EMT Michael Sandridge and EMT Jalen Jones.
What did you learn about Mr. Nichols' condition when you arrived at St. Francis Hospital?
When I arrived and started to unload Mr. Nichols out of the back of the ambulance, when I opened the doors, I noticed that the Lucas device, which is it does the compressions in CPR, was attached to him, and so that told me that he went into cardiac arrest.
If you became aware he was in cardiac arrest prior to, well, when you left the seat at Bear Creek in Castleton, was, to your knowledge, was Mr. Nichols in cardiac arrest when he was put in the ambulance and investigated to Bear Creek?
No, sir.
What did you do upon arrival at St. Francis Hospital?
I parked the ambulance at the ambulance bay, got out and opened the back doors to start unloading Mr. Nichols, who was out of the back of the ambulance, and then wheeled him inside with my paramedic, my base EMT, and EMT. I believe the officer went inside with us, but I'm not too sure. I was just focused on bringing the patient inside. We brought him inside through the double doors and then wheeled him into one of the trauma rooms.
Transfer care to the
Yes, sir.
How about in room chart, sir? I asked the witness, Your Honor. Just
Just a moment, John. Court's adjourned.
Stop the recording. Let me stop the bottom.
Now, Mr. Stinker, pressure is disconnected from the device. Mr. Long, my name is Marcus Zuma, Hurst, Justin Smith. Justin, can you stand up a minute? Does the man look familiar to you?
No, sir.
Was there a police officer that you seen that night that carried on more than one or two or three conversations with you regarding the oxygen level of Tyree Nichols while you were supposedly there giving treatment?
It's not that I recall. I remember somebody saying something while I was looking for the ambulance crew, but as far as like multiple times, not that I recall.
You remember a Memphis police officer saying, "Hey, do you have one of those baggy things you could put on his face?" You remember that?
No, sir.
I'm going to go to the Mills body camera, starting at 20:50:05. If you could, sir, could you see yourself in that image?
Yes, sir, I do.
I buy you 100%.
What exactly are they showing? I don't know.
You 100%. I don't know what else I can do, guys. Yeah, my head. So,
That's somehow stopping the sound because this one, just.
They can't get the sound right. Awkward. Yeah, that's crazy. That exhibit is not that important to his testimony. And they got everybody and their mama coming up trying to fix it. It still ain't fixed. And dude's still on the stand waiting for the question to be asked. I forgot what the question was. The judge then got off the bench and he touching it. Nah, I'm just bullshit. But everybody else, they have tried. Is that how they gonna end the trial? Cause he could, nigga, ask your next question. The fuck? They done went and got the audio visual lady from the library to try to help. She changing out components. They done switched laptops, servers, mini projectors, programs. They done brought in the Geek Squad. The lady that do sign languages in there. Nobody knows nobody can fix this problem. They've been fucking with this shit for down there 30 minutes. This is funny. The judge finally said, fuck this shit. We finna take a break. Oh shit. Okay, let me see. Cause this is only this is a 8.5 hour day, with 8 hours and 26 minutes. It's the 6 hour and 45 minute mark. They okay. Did he just give up on it? Okay, they did come back. Let me see. All right, we cooking. We cooking. That was an unexpected break. So they're gonna run through this last hour and 26 minutes. Okay, we're at the 7 hour mark. Still nothing. It's tricky. Damn it. Where the fuck was I at when they came back?
Technical difficulties, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed and not stress too many things and see if we come on. Go ahead and visit one.
All right. When we left off, I asked you if you recognize that fellow, if anybody or the MPD officer had said anything to you about oxygen levels. In other words, Tyree Nichols, his O2 levels look low. His O2 is getting lower. You recall conversations like that?
I recall one of them saying that, does he look all right? As far as like O2, asking about O2 levels, I don't recall hearing anything about that.
All right. Let's see if we back into another one. You, on direct examination, at least the way I took your answer, was that you were called out on this dispatch to treat Mr. Hemphill for pepper spray. Did I misunderstand your answer about what the purpose of your arriving at Rains and Ross Road was?
No, sir.
I didn't misunderstand what you said.
Yes, sir.
When the dispatch to your fire station came in, tell me if I'm wrong, they didn't tell you who your patient was. They just said you had a chemical spray incident at Rains and Ross Road. Is that wrong?
No, sir. When it came over the loudspeaker, it says assault, and then it tells us the location of what equipment is going. So in this case, it was assault, and then it was the intersection of Rains and Ross Road, and our engine company that was responding. And then on the inside of the cab, we have a mobile data transmitter, which is our computer that's inside the piece of equipment. Dispatch can put notes in that dispatch log, and in the log it said police officer sprayed by pepper spray.
Okay, and that is the Memphis Fire Department dispatch log that you're talking about.
Yes,
right? Not Memphis Police Department.
No, sir.
So if Memphis Police Department said something different than Memphis Fire Department, and Memphis Fire Department didn't say something different to your in-cab camera, you don't have anything to do with that, you don't know how that's gonna happen, right?
No, sir.
That's why when you came walking up to Hemphill at the scene, Hemphill said, I have to spray, but you're here for the suspect, he's down there. He told you what you're there at, right?
He told us that there was, at another location, that there was an incident that took place, that there's another suspect over there for us as patient.
But you thought it was another patient?
That they told us that he told us that there was another patient down the street from us, but we were originally dispatched to Ross Road in Rains.
You keep using the word another patient, so were you being led to believe by someone that there were two patients, one cop, one suspect, or two incidents, or what were you being led to believe, and by whom?
There was two separate incidents. When the first incident we were dispatched to was Ross Road in Rains. That was the incident we were initially dispatched. We didn't find out about the second incident until after our interaction with Officer Hemphill.
And did Hemphill also tell you that the suspect had been tased?
He said that the tasers were deployed and that OC spray was used.
And did he say that they had been fighting with the suspect? I think he used the word fighting.
To my knowledge, he said that that they were in altercation with him. As far as currently, I didn't know if they were still having an altercation down the street or just at that scene.
Yeah, but I'm only talking about Hemphill because Hemphill's not at the scene. Did Hemphill tell you that the suspect or someone, a patient, had been tased, had been sprayed, and had been in an altercation with the cops? Did Hemphill tell you or lead you to believe those things?
Led me to believe that taser was used, OC spray was used, and that the suspect took off.
Okay. Now, you then went down to Bear Creek and Castlegate, and I'm going to be playing for you a body-worn camera of Officer Bills that I have coordinated with the District Attorney's Office starting at 2050:03. If you could, 1, cross your fingers, 2, watch the video. At the time this is going on, about how long have you been standing around, your best estimate? Been standing around there with the patient? Because the patient's at your feet, just out of view, isn't he?
Yes, sir.
About how long have you been standing there?
I had to guess maybe 3 minutes.
Okay, fair enough. Now, got you on the left, and I would offer to you, see the black fella with the hoodie on, a baseball cap, and he's got white bottom tennis shoes, Smith fellow that's handing you something?
Yes, sir.
I would offer to you, and I think there's no dispute, that is Justin Smith, who I introduced you to earlier. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Where is Mr. Tyree Nichols at this point in your treatment?
At
this point, where is he?
He's still sitting next to the patrol car.
And you've told me that Hemphill told you there was a taser used and OC spray used. And then you've told us that you got off your fire truck and you grabbed your trauma bag. Isn't it Memphis Fire Department policy to not only get a trauma bag for somebody who has trauma, bleeding, injury, and also get your what's called a green bag, which is a small oxygen canister? Isn't that the procedure and policy of the Memphis Fire Department when you get off your truck?
Yes, sir, but it's under the guidance of the highest level of care.
So it's somebody else's fault. You didn't pick the green bag.
I was just instructed by my highest level of care to bring the blue bag.
You're an EMT, right?
Yes, sir.
Emergency medical technician. At this point in your treatment, or treatment under the care of your senior person, has it crossed your mind at this point in the treatment that this patient may need oxygen?
No, sir.
Okay. We hit play at 205021. Are you and the other fellow, the senior fellow, are y'all providing any medical care right now?
Just observe, just overwatch it and make sure that it doesn't harm itself.
Have you or the other EMT, have y'all laid hands on a patient yet?
Yes, sir, we have.
You have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, mark that time. 8:50 p.m. You are testifying that you have laid hands and begun treatment on the patient, but now you're just observing. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, sir.
Is that Mr. Nichols' feet flopping around? You need to get up?
I can say so. Yes, sir.
Are those Mr. Nichols' feet flopping around?
Yes, sir.
Are you even looking at the patient right now?
Just then I was. But I hear the sirens of the unit approaching.
Well, you volunteered. I didn't ask anything, but since you did volunteer, I need to ask you. So because of your sirens coming from some direction, you're gonna not treat anymore?
No, sir.
Okay. I didn't know what you meant by volunteering that. But you're saying you hear the ambulance coming. Is that what you just said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See the man like that shit?
Yes, sir.
Right here, what are you looking for?
His wallet, so police can have his ID.
All right, thank you. What did you just ask the senators for?
I don't recall. I wasn't able to hear it in the video.
Has an O2 monitor, you know what an O2 monitor is?
Yes, sir.
Measures oxygen rate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Has an O2 monitor been placed on the patient right, as of right now?
No, sir.
Has,
Hey, Miss B.
any type of monitoring equipment at all been placed on the patient at this point?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't say it, Mr. Stingle. I'm starting back up to 205-209. Which one of y'all are observing Tyree right now?
I'm off screen, but I'm facing towards him.
Oh, he's got to see. Is that Nichols' feet flop around now? He's rolled over on his left side?
Yes, sir.
Did you say earlier that you heard the ambulance siren? Where'd he go?
We hear it from a long distance away. It wasn't close enough, but we could hear it coming.
Is that Mr. Nichols looking to try to lift himself back up?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you meant when you put your report that he was alert and oriented?
I didn't fill the report out, sir.
Somebody else did.
As far as like the EPCR, no, sir, I didn't fill that out. But my grand jury, yes, sir. This was prior to the assessment for alert and oriented was prior to this.
How your sirens now? You
I'd say they're a little bit closer at this point.
know. Is that Mr. Nichols now rolled over on his left side?
Yes, sir.
Now he's on his back?
Yes, sir.
Rolling on his right side?
Yes, sir.
And where are you?
I'm still standing off screen looking at him.
Well, I'm not a doctor or anything. How's that man supposed to be able to breathe? He's laying flat on his back or rolling around on the concrete.
He can still breathe with his airway if he has his neck up. He can still breathe. It's not obstructing his airway.
You did check his airway?
He's able to move around on his own, and he's able to move air.
It's your position because he's moving, he must be breathing.
Tells me he's got good pulse and to be able to move on his own. It'd be able to. I'm not just an EMT. I'm just very basic of it.
I'm going to move on. 2054 Oak Forest, Oak Ridge. Now you hear sirens?
Yes, sir, more clearly. They're closer to the scene.
You know, when you first called, you heard sirens, did you happen to know what time it was?
No, sir, I didn't.
It was 20:51, 3 minutes ago.
Yes,
Where
sir.
is this ambulance coming from?
I don't know where they're coming from because the ambulances go all over the city.
What did somebody just ask you?
Is he all right?
You don't recognize voice, so I'm not going to ask. But was it a cop or a fire department man that said that?
It wasn't either one of our voices. It was a police officer.
Same voice said what?
I didn't catch it.
I'll replay it. At 20:54, 53, a voice that you said is not a fire department person said, "He all right?" You heard that, right?
Yes, sir.
And you recall someone asking you there that night, if you're on independent memory.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna get played. And that same voice asked a follow-up question. If you please listen. Did you hear that?
It was very quiet. I still didn't catch it.
It sound like you sure? You sure? You sure?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you recall that of your own intimate recollection that night? Where somebody says, "Is he all right?"
I remember that, yes, sir.
And did you answer that question when that cop asked you that question?
Yes, sir. I believe I started moving towards the patient and started doing my sternal rub.
But you didn't answer the question of the cop.
No, sir. Not to my knowledge.
Before we go any further, what's your understanding of who is responsible for medical care once you arrive on an active scene in the city of Memphis working for the Memphis Fire Department? Who's in charge of medical care of whatever patient, whatever suspect, whatever heart attack victim? When you arrive at a crime scene or a police-involved scene, who is in charge of the medical treatment there on that scene?
The highest level of care. In this case, it was the advanced EMT. And the highest level of care assumes the primary care of each and every patient on every scene, regardless of what the scene is.
And you were not the number one guy. You were what, number two guy? What's the number two guy's role?
The EMT's role, as far as assisting the higher level of care, is considered the gopher. So and what I mean by that is that if the advanced EMT needs something brought to the scene that wasn't initially brought to the scene, the advanced EMT advises the EMT to go grab that said piece of equipment while he can maintain patient care.
Okay, thank you for that. And the senior EMT, I think you called him, if you're wrong, that was the black fellow named Sanders, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you were the number two man, or as you say, the gopher, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So if Tyree Nichols was getting no care, no basic life support care, you're telling us and the jury that it's Sanders' responsibility, not yours. Is that what you're telling us?
That as far as I don't assume primary care, even if he doesn't completely terminate care. And if you'd have to relay that to his partner if he doesn't give me any signs, I wouldn't know.
Isn't Tyree Nichols giving you and Sanders the signs that he is struggling here at the scene? Are you just going to sit there and say, "I'm going to wait till Sanders tells me to do something"? Is that what your position was that night?
Oh shit! This your witness, G. Why is you doing your witness like that? Damn.
Well, then what was it? You're an EMT, hired by this fire department to provide medical care and a secondary gopher level or whatever to victims in Memphis. Who was taking care of Tyree Nichols while he was laying on the ground?
It was the advanced EMT.
Advanced EMT. All right, I'll move on here. That's the advanced EMT with his hands in his pocket.
Yes, sir.
Come on. What is that bag the advanced EMT is moving?
That would be the cardiac monitor.
So the cardiac monitor has not been unboxed or unpackaged as of this time?
It was unpackaged and he repackaged it back up earlier in the video.
Okay. Moving on at 20:55. So he sets the bag down. I'm sure somebody here will be interested. Was that a cop or a fireman that asked if you had an ETA on your unit?
That was the police officer that asked.
We're now at 20:55, 20, and I still don't see an ambulance. Do you?
They just pulled up on the scene. They just arrived on scene, but they haven't made it up to the scene yet.
Okay. Did you hear somebody say standing up, sitting on his butt?
He was already sitting up. I had the other officer help me lift him up, and then I continued to administer sternal rubs.
We're about to get to the officer setting him up. But as it stands right now, Tyree Nichols is not sitting up in a recovery position, is he? He's laying flat on the concrete.
Not that I recall. And
He was just flopping, motherfucker.
Well, you did see him flopping around on the concrete on his side and on his back and on the left. You did see that, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And are you trying to say that Mr. Nichols was able to put himself back up against the car?
No, sir.
Okay. So if Mr. Nichols gets put in a medical recovery position, Mr. Nichols is not going to be able to do it himself, can he?
No, sir.
And so you just heard a voice. I'm asking you, is it a cop or is it a fireman that said, get him on his butt? Who is that? Is it a cop or a fireman?
That was a police officer.
Why is a police officer telling you to put your patient in a recovery position?
My advanced EMT stepped off, and I was going to maneuver to the other side and get an officer to help me lift him up.
All right, let's watch that. Is that same officer with the baseball hat on?
Yes, sir.
All right, and then there's another police officer there helping him, is that right?
On the other side of him, sir?
I'll do one. Give me a second. I'm at 26, 29.
Yes, sir.
Now the sternal rub occurs, right?
No, sir. Prior to lifting him up, I did another sternal rub. That's where I was saying, hey, man, prior to us moving, I did a sternal rub there. He responded to pain. And then even here, he responded to pain.
Where's the advanced EMT you report to at this point?
I don't know where he went off to.
All right, not a doctor, but if you do a sternal rub on somebody for 15 seconds, is that because the person is gone, what otherwise might be referred to as non-responsive?
I did it multiple times, and then he responded to the, I believe the third initial time that I did the sternal rub, he responded to pain.
Okay, you must miss my point. Do you do sternal rubs on people that are responsive to breathing, healthy?
No, sir.
You do sternal rubs on someone who's non-responsive, right? Not just to see if that will stimulate foot pain, so it'll jerk around, right?
Yes, sir.
So, you've now told us you've done 2 or 3 sternal rubs on this guy. I'm asking you, that was because Mr. Nichols was unresponsive and looked unconscious, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, has it crossed your mind to put this man on oxygen?
Yes, sir. No, at this point, yes, sir.
Well, where's your oxygen bag?
On the piece of equipment.
What, a block up the road?
Yes, sir.
Moving on at 56:25.
He blaming the EMTs for the death, not the officers. Damn. Good defense.
That's more sternal rub, isn't it? That you're doing? Yes, sir. Mr. Nichols, speak to it. That's more sternal rub, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
I don't see you going. Anybody going to get an oxygen bag?
My advanced EMT hadn't returned back to me yet at this point.
Earlier when I asked you where he went, you said you didn't know where he went. So
You ain't got no radio?
Did you figure out that he must have gone back to the oxygen bag?
No, sir. That's just, he hasn't came back to where we were. I don't, at this point, I still don't know where he's at.
Getting played you in 205-644. Did you hear what he just told you?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
What is his oxygen?
I'll play it again for you to make it try. There you go. Did he say his oxygen is low?
It's still hard for me to hear.
Do you have any independent recollection that night that black officer with the baseball hat on said something about his oxygen level being low? Because when I first started asking these questions, he said you don't remember any cop saying anything to you about oxygen. Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. Is that advanced EMT Sanders? I see moving around behind the white cop.
Yes, sir.
So he's come back.
Yes, sir.
Did he bring your drink back with him?
No, sir.
So when you saw that he didn't bring the oxygen bag back with him, did you run?
Yes.
Go get the oxygen bag.
Yes, sir, I did.
Hold that thought. You heard that Mike Thompson said? He said, you got
Oh shit, this getting spicy.
So that's at least 3 times I've heard the same officer with one baseball hat on say something about low oxygen. To you.
I was getting the O2 bag at this point. I ran into a paramedic.
You made
to my
sure you
knowledge.
the bag?
Yes, sir. I know at one point I did.
Let's see if this refreshes recollection. When the ambulance arrived, the man in charge, I think his name was Guy, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
The head paramedic on that vehicle told you to go get the stretcher, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
You testified that when you went to go get the stretcher, you took the green bag, the oxygen bag, for the first time off and put it on the stretcher. You called testifying that.
I put it on the ground.
I'm sorry. Beg your forgiveness. You put it on the ground. And when you went to roll the stretcher away, you said that your Lieutenant Whitaker, for some reason, had taken the oxygen bag and put it back on the truck. You recall testifying that way?
Yes, sir.
So even after the ambulance got there, even after you went to get the green bag and then came back with a stretcher, you still didn't come back with a green bag, did you?
The back of the stretcher has an O2 bottle and nasal cannulas and non-rebreathers on the back of them.
All right. Judge, I'm going to go through this portion of the video because this is the all right, let me go to Mr. Baines's. We all have a line of That's okay. Now, you. No, hold on. I don't like using it.
Folk got a Roku stick in the court.
Very MPD, you said that you remember riding to the St. Francis Hospital.
Yes, sir.
And you said you remember a gentleman with a MPD, hat.
Yes, sir.
And if Tyree being stand up, you remember seeing a face that had been in the passenger seat of that ambulance?
Yes, sir. He looks familiar.
Is that
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But you didn't know him by name or anything that night?
No, sir.
If I intended to that person in that vehicle, would you disagree with that?
No, sir.
It was like,
Yes, sir.
And do you remember at any point doing anything to obstruct the ability to administer care to Mr. Nichols who was in the back of the ambulance?
No, sir. Not that I recall. No, sir. Well, he's in front of you, so no, sir.
Right. And when you would have seen him at the hospital, was he in the way?
No, sir.
And when you were on that scene, did he actually try to do anything to obstruct you from the care that you were trying to administer at that time?
No, sir. The first time I saw him was actually in the unit. Right. We call ambulances units. I'm sorry, I'm going to use that synonymously.
And so on the scene, did you ask him any questions about the condition of Mr. Nichols?
Not that I recall.
You recall asking him anything about what would have happened on the scene prior to you arriving?
No, sir. Not that I recall.
Now, you would have been a level of care higher than Tyree being as it related to healthcare, right?
Yes, sir.
And you had actually had training in the military, correct?
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, a few weeks before January 7th, 2023, you just got back from Djibouti, Africa, right?
Yes, sir.
And you have actually seen people injured, correct?
Yes, sir.
You never seen anybody injured?
Prior to on Memphis fire? Or,
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir.
And prior to the experience on that night, in other words, you've seen injuries before.
Yes, sir.
And you asked people about what happened to this person on this particular scene at different occasions, correct?
Yes, sir.
And on that particular evening, and I know in a few minutes you might ask questions about what was said to you, one way or the other. If you had questions about this person who you're observing, according to what you testified to earlier, you did see blood, right?
Yes, sir.
And you did see contusion to the head, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you did see the person laid up against a vehicle and moving around, right?
Yes, sir.
You asked questions of the person that you had a conversation with, correct?
Yes, sir.
And on that particular scene, there was nothing that you asked any of the officers regarding what happened on that scene, right?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't ask about what happened as it relates to how did this person get in this condition? What was he doing? Was he trying to run from you? Any of those type of questions, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Your questions and what you did were based on your experience, right?
Yes, sir.
And according to your testimony, and I think your grand jury testimony as well, the higher or ranking level of care on that scene at particular evening was Mr. Sandridge, right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sandridge, did you hear him asking any of those type of questions that I just asked you if you asked?
Yes, sir. Not that I recall.
You didn't hear him asking anything about what happened on that scene, how did he get in a particular condition? Nothing like that, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you get grand jury testimony, you're in the room with people that are only from the government, right?
That's my assumption. I don't know personnel.
You see any of us in the room with you?
No, sir.
We weren't asking you questions like right now, right?
Yes, sir.
And you've been asked questions over the grand jury and in that building a few different times, right?
Yes, sir.
But as it relates to what happened on that particular scene, on that particular night, none of these officers did anything to obstruct your ability to do your job. Yes or no? Did they obstruct you?
As far as like knowing like which officers were where, no, sir. Not that I know there's officers like constantly going throughout the scene, but as far as like knowing who they were, I don't know.
Let me ask you this way: Darius Bain, did he stop you from your ability to render care?
Yes, sir. Not to my knowledge. Yes,
He didn't leave your bag with the truck or anything like that, right?
yes, sir.
And he didn't stop you from your ability to go get your bag or do whatever you needed to do. As you're asked questions by Mr. Zuma regarding going back and forth to the truck that you were there on, or the engine that you were there on, he didn't obstruct you, right? And you got there because police officers told you all where to go, correct?
Yes, sir.
And once you got there, nobody did anything to stop you from doing your job. They had MPDs on their badge, on their chest.
Not that as far as like these officers go, not to my knowledge as far as these officers.
And one more time, before I sit down, to Darius Bain, he didn't stop you, and you recognize him from riding to the hospital in the same vehicle with Mr. Darius Bain, right?
Yes, sir.
This scene that you responded to is a lot different than other scenes you've been on, right?
Very different, yes, sir.
Tell me what you think about that.
This is the most chaotic scene that I've ever responded to, and it was my first day back prior, and I've only had a year on the street prior, and then as far as like I've interacted with MPD before, and it was just not, it just felt different as far as being on that scene.
Lost interactive?
A little bit, yes, sir.
About the way you're treating it?
And like as far as like pepper spray, taser, the information that was given, that's like all the information I had.
All you were told was pepper spray, taser, and interact with police.
Yes, sir.
Well, how many of the police officers, including Mr. Bain, ever told you that he had received an impact to their head?
None. Not that I'm aware of, sir.
How many told you that, in fact, he had been kicked really, really hard?
Not to my knowledge, sir. Yes, sir.
Or that he had been kicked again in the head?
I wasn't given that information.
Or he had hit 5 haymakers to the head?
I wasn't given that information.
Or that he had been hit twice while he was down after all that?
That wasn't given to me.
You were given information that he looked hot or he was acting hot, right?
Yes, sir.
Like on drugs?
Yes, sir.
And that information did influence the care that you gave him?
Yes, sir.
If you had been told that he had received devastating head blows, would that have impacted the care you gave him?
Yes, sir.
But you weren't given that information?
No, sir, I was not.
But you did give us the care, right?
Yes, sir.
One of the things you had talked about was look at his eyes, right?
Yes, sir.
And what did you say about his eyes?
That they were pinpoint.
And is it true that pinpoint pupils could correlate to drug use like being high?
Yes, sir.
Is it true they could also correlate with significant neurological brain damage, like the shifting of brain tissue?
Yes, sir.
Well, Jackson, he ain't no doctor. I knew that was coming.
He testified as to basically his testimony was that it's indicative of being high. He did give a conclusory answer to that regarding whether or not he had been. He said that's what the issue was. Now he's asking him about neurological shifting of brain, etc. He's not qualified to do that. He's not qualified according to him to give a bag on the truck without somebody telling him. So he definitely can't answer this question about neurological deficits.
The question is not about neurological deficits. My question is about the pinpoint pupils, whether that could be a sign of neurological damage.
What it do, James?
Pinpoint pupils could be a sign of drug use. He's qualified to answer that Now he's going to ask if pinpoint pupils can indicate neurological brain damage, and he's qualified to answer that. He can answer
If the witness knows the answer, or will allow him to answer the question.
Answer the question.
Yes, sir.
If you had been told about the impacts to the head, there's medical stuff you could have done, right?
Like for impacts to the head, as far as like internal injuries, no, sir.
Not asking if you could perform surgery. Are there things you could have done out there different had you known that there were significant impacts to his head?
Yes, sir.
For instance?
C-collar, C-spine.
What's a C-collar?
It's a neck brace that holds your cervical vertebrae, which is the upper vertebrae in your spine. It holds it in place to keep you from moving your neck and further injuring yourself.
And is that important when you have neurological damage?
Yes, sir.
The prosecutor, I think that was a dumb question to ask, because if the defense is trying to put it on the EMT, you helping out, but you saying the EMT didn't know this information. But yeah, I wouldn't be asking him them questions. I would have just let him get down.
Did you ever ask to have the patient unhandcuffed?
Yes, sir, I did.
Was the patient unhandcuffed?
No, sir.
Do you remember who you asked about unhandcuffing the patient?
I remember asking one of the police officers. I don't have a name to be able to.
So to be fair, you do not know if it was one of these police officers or not?
No, sir.
But did you ask the police officers to unhandcuff the patient?
Yes, sir.
Was that granted or denied?
It was denied.
Did that hinder your ability to change your ability?
Yes, sir.
That's all my questions.
Yeah, you realize that was stupid too. And after he was still flapping around with the handcuffs on, he was flapping around, moving from left and right, get like he was. So they know they were going to take the handcuffs off after they had 2 chases with him. That didn't help the prosecutor at all.
Mr. Long, when you were at Castlegate and Bear Creek on January 7th, 2023, did you know about any punches to the head?
No, sir.
Did you know about any kicks anywhere of the body?
No, sir.
Did you know about the use of an acid baton?
No, sir.
Had you been there and seen that?
Like, I'm sorry. What are you at? Like, if I was arrived earlier to the scene?
You didn't see any kicks to Mr. Nichols, correct?
No, sir.
And you didn't see the use of an acid baton on Mr. Nichols, correct?
No, sir.
And you didn't see any punches to Mr. Nichols, correct?
No, sir.
So if you weren't, it's because you weren't there when that occurred, correct?
Yes, sir.
If you're not there, you have to be told, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if you weren't there when punches were thrown, you can't tell an EMT about it, correct?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
If Demetrius Haley was not present to observe punches, he couldn't tell you about it, correct?
I think that requires speculation. Objections respected.
I'll withdraw the question.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Hey, would you stand up for me? Do you recall seeing Officer Haley at Cascade and Bear Creek?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know names, or at that time I didn't know names. Or
The gentleman who was just standing, stand up again, Mr. Haley. Do you recognize the gentleman standing as having been at Cascade and Bear Creek that night?
I don't know who police officers were there. As far as like the names of the police officers that are there, like I can see them here now, but as far as like being able to, I can give you a description of them, but as far as like seeing them, I can tell you if I saw them or not, if I recall seeing them there or not.
Okay. So the gentleman who was just standing that I referenced right now as Demetrius Haley, do you recall him being at Cascade and Bear Creek January 7th, 2023?
No, sir, I don't recall.
And you were previously you were asked by Mr. Hagerman questions about if you had known about punches or kicks, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what you would have done differently was put the C-collar on, correct?
Yes, sir.
Nothing else.
I would have done a lot more differently. As far as like my care, like probably cutting his clothes off, trying to get him to where he's, we call it trauma naked. So cutting his clothes off down to his undergarments, and then to where we can expose the body to be able to see any physical damage.
And you would have done that if you had known about kicks or punches, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you have done it if advanced EMT Sandridge had not told you to do it?
I'm sorry, as in, like, if he told me not to do it, or told me
No,
to do it?
if he had not instructed you to do that,
If
would
I
you still have done it?
If I found out that information, I still would have done it.
So that's unlike when Mr. Sumak was asking you questions about your care, and you said that's up to advanced EMT Sandridge. He was in charge of the scene,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
One reason you didn't go get an oxygen bag back at the truck a block away for so long is because Advanced EMT Sanders had not told you to do it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he was in charge of the scene.
Yes, sir.
But if you know about kicks or punches, then you'd have been in charge of putting clothes on.
Well, I wouldn't have been in charge of it, but if he knew the information as well, then our care would have been different from just thinking it's an overdose.
Do you recall testifying under oath before a federal grand jury?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall being asked whether any officer on the scene told you that Mr. Nichols had been punched? And you said no to the prosecutor.
Yes, sir, that's a no.
You were being questioned by a female prosecutor, correct?
Yes, sir.
So your answer was actually no, ma'am.
Yes, sir, that's a no, ma'am.
And then you were asked whether any officer on the scene told you that Nichols had been kicked. And you said no, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And then you were asked whether any officer told you that Mr. Nichols had been struck with an acid baton. And again, no, ma'am, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And then, if anybody had given you that information, how would it have affected your care? You were asked, right?
Yes, sir.
Your answer, with my scope, I would have been able to tell to be able to do, that would make it a little more sense with the injuries, because we were trying, the entire time we were trying to figure out how he ended up this way. He was still fine and talking to us the entire time, but that would have definitely changed how
Y'all didn't ask.
he approached the scene and would have been a little more assertive with the police on they needed to take the cuffs off of him. So you were not assertive in trying to get the cuffs off, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the cuffs were taken off when paramedic got out there, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you were asked, were there any other ways that it would have changed the care you provided? You recall being asked that question?
Yes, sir.
And your answer, with what I can do, probably would have put a C collar on him if I knew that information. Other than that everything else would have gone outside of my scope, and I can't do that. Is that your answer?
Yes, sir. At the time, that was my answer.
Okay. And do you recall the date of your grand jury testimony as March 7th, 2023?
Yes, sir.
So it was about 2 months after this incident, January 7th, 2023, out on Cascade Bear Creek, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you never said you would do anything different other than put the C collar on, correct?
In the grand jury, yes, sir.
Okay. And you were asked, what else would you have done? You agree, correct?
Yes, sir.
You never mentioned cutting off clothes, correct?
No, sir.
You never mentioned examining the body, correct?
No, sir, I did not.
That was not done, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Advanced EMT standards never instructed you to do anything like that, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And that night, you took no initiative that Sandridge didn't instruct you to, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
If I don't take a moment, is there, as a witness, I'm going to have to take a moment, Your Honor, based on an answer was given. I'm going to have to get into Bean's body on camera. Bean's body, on camera number 2 at 2057-41.
He said, hold up, because what he said, let me get this footage back up. They didn't rattle the damn witness they called. This they witness and they beating them up. He going off grid after this trial. He like, we got it or not? Do we got it? We got it? There you go. Is this how they gonna end the last 26 minutes? It's been longer than that. appears to be that way.
Mr. Long. Hey, remember when I first played video for you? One of the guys at the baseball hat says, what's the guy's name? Nichols. What's his first name? Tyree. Remember that exchange that's going on?
Yes, sir.
And that's when we stopped. Okay? But then I heard you testify that when the officers were asked to remove handcuffs, they didn't do it. Did I hear you right?
Yes, sir.
And we've watched your treatment. We've watched your treatment of Tyree Nichols up until this point, because this is when we stopped before, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. By the way, the man that just came on the scene is the ambulance. Felt right. Okay. You hear that man when he asked him?
No, sir, I didn't.
I'll play it again. I will suggest to you, says we can smack the handcuffs off of him. Before I ask my next question, where were you during this sequence?
Getting the stretcher from the ambulance.
Right. So how is it you're able to testify that when you asked, or when cops were asked to remove the handcuffs, they refused?
This was when he was asked to remove the handcuffs, not the cops.
Okay. So is it your sworn testimony today that you asked any of these police officers to remove handcuffs?
I don't remember if I asked any of these police officers, but I asked a police officer.
And what did they say?
They didn't confirm or deny that they would, but they didn't make any motion to remove the handcuffs at all.
Okay, this is 2058-09. You agree with me, handcuffs being unlocked, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm understanding close to it. Sorry. I was asked to follow up.
That, those questions came from the camera, the body worn camera, the person named Tyree Speed. And this being once again stand up. Now, do you remember during that particular video seeing a person unlocking the handcuffs?
I can't testify to that. I was off the. I was still on scene, but I was away from where that interaction took place. I was down grabbing the stretcher off the ambulance.
All right. And so when they were asked on camera whether or not to unlock a video, you would have been there to see Mr. Bean unlock, right?
That's right, yes, sir.
Now, do you remember specifically ever asking Tyree Bean to unlock the handcuffs?
The first time I saw it, I actually recognized from sitting in this room now. The first time I ever recognized him even being on the scene is from when we got in the ambulance together, when he was in the front seat with me. As far as like any other interaction, I didn't recognize who it was until seeing him in this courtroom today, seeing him in the just his familiar self sitting in the front seat with me.
And to be clear, you never remember him at all trying to do anything to obstruct your ability to get to Mr. Nichols. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right, and going back to the question that you were asking Mr. Hackman a few months ago, you said something about a stabilization device. C-spine, what do you call it?
We call it, it's interchangeable, C-spine or C-collar.
C-collar or C-spine. To your knowledge, and I guess based on your training, does that do anything to stop any breaks from it?
Not to my knowledge. Not what I know.
Does that do anything to help breathing?
It keeps the airway open, but it doesn't like force air. It just keeps the neck stabilized, so it's not giving oxygen or anything.
And consistent with your grand jury testimony, that's just about all that you would have done any different. Had you asked questions about what happened and had those questions said, well, this is what happened. That's what you would have done. That would have been any different than what you already have testified that you did on that scene, right?
So during the grand jury testimony, yes, sir. However, I've done more of research just on my own, and just came to a conclusion of what more I could have done.
Right. Now, and you did research on your own. Were you out there on January 7th doing research while you're on the scene?
No, sir.
And so you're saying that since you've been going to grand jury and being threatened to be prosecuted, et cetera, during those times, you researched what could I have done different?
No, sir, just on my own accord, just going through and just trying to enhance what.
I might ask a poor question. It wasn't on that night, though, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you're saying you did this, you researched this on your own after that particular night, right?
Yes, sir.
Somewhere between January 7th, I'm assuming maybe after March 7th, 2023, That's when you gave your grand jury testimony, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you asked questions also regarding, and I want to be precise about this. You said that you saw Mr. Nichols yourself, right?
Yes, sir.
And you described seeing a head contusion, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also described seeing some blood in the mouth, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we got swelling, blood in the mouth, and you got clothing that looked like it had been at least disheveled, right?
Yes, sir.
And you saw these things yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, based off of your training, is that consistent necessarily with the person being pepper sprayed?
No, sir.
Based off of your training, is that consistent with a person who's being just tased?
I mean, depending on how they felt, it could be, but to my knowledge, I'm not too sure of like how he was tased or what. So again, it could be a hit or miss. Was it yes or no?
You were on that same scene where these officers were within feet of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you heard the conversations regarding the struggles that these officers had.
I don't recall hearing them.
You don't recall hearing any of that, but you do recall what you saw, right?
Yes, sir.
Based off of the contusions, the blood that you saw, the disheveled clothes, it was consistent with a person having been in an altercation, more so than a person just on a regular arrest scene. Yes or no?
Yes, depending on how they felt, if they were like tackled, because they said they ran from them. But if they tackled them, then yes. But the injuries could be from them being tackled and wrestle around and get the handcuffs on them. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll just fix your answer.
But as far as like any like altercations and stuff, like head, depending on how you felt, you can have a head contusion, you can bust his nose, and you can get a busted lip. But as far as other knowledge, like any altercations and stuff, I don't recall.
And so that conversation that we hear while you're out there, you weren't paying attention to that, right?
I didn't hear it, yes, sir.
I got you. But you did observe, right?
Yes, sir.
And while you're on that particular scene, your care was limited to whatever Mr. Sandridge told you to do, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. There it is. You described two different scenes, at least, right?
Yes, sir.
And you said, and there was some confusion with the question before about whether or not there was two different people versus two different scenes. You know that?
Yes, sir.
But there were two different scenes. You get to the first scene minutes before you got to the second scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you talked to a white gentleman on that first scene, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you're talking to them, to that gentleman, you remember he had this conversation with you regarding what had happened. You remember him saying that the person had been tased?
Yes, sir.
Pepper sprayed?
Yes, sir.
Fighting with the officers?
Yes, sir.
So you remember that specifically from that first conversation that you had, it had been moments before you go to the second scene, right?
Yes, sir.
So there is no mystery about what had gone on between first scene, second scene, and when you get there, related to that particular suspect, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you did know that the person had been tased, pepper sprayed, and fighting with officers prior to any of this type of conversation regarding whether or not they told you X, Y, Z. You were told specifically if the person had been in an altercation with officers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But nothing at all about that trauma.
No, sir.
Nothing.
No, sir. Or use of ask or punching or anything like that. An altercation can go for like many things. Like just pushing and stuff like that in the altercation. Or yelling, that's an altercation.
The important part of the head trauma.
Yes, sir.
That's your earlier, asking you earlier about a conversation you did not hear. He was asking you didn't hear the conversation of the officers when you were treating the patient.
Yes, sir.
In particular, did you hear these officers talking about how many pieces they gave him?
No, sir, I didn't hear that.
Is that conversation you did?
No, sir, I didn't hear it.
That's all my questions.
Anything else? This witness?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, we've been going through some of these witnesses and going through the proof a little bit quicker than anticipated. We're going to go ahead and excuse you this evening. We're going to get started back up tomorrow.
All right. I'll see y'all. That was it for today. Let me see if we got any Diddy updates. Well, not for today. That was it for day 4. I'll be back tonight with day 5. I hadn't seen any news saying that they've taken it to the jury or any of that stuff. So, yeah, I'm gonna try to do our thing. Until the next episode, we out. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Nigga talking reckless, shoot his bitch ass with the quickness. Now he bleeding, sorry, begging, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 limp biscuit. All my niggas wildin', they done labeled us a misfit. Wake up every morning, 2 or 3, 5 in the thick bitch. Oh shit, didn't nobody come to see you old, it's some focus. Shoot 100 shots, no reloaded. Master of the game, you would think I'm into coded. Memphis niggas spit this pippin', mackin' like I'm golden. Ho, with my money, you gon' turn me to the old me. Stay high, first class flight, I'm in the nosebleed. Copy, cooking, whipping, shipping, till you count the proceeds. OG, I've been moving back niggas since 03. Low key, niggas hating, but they don't want no beat. State gang, true sippers, bitch, I bet we gon' eat. Get jammed, get a lawyer, make it bunny, don't speak. Pour up, oh, I need some more. A nigga had a long week. Shout out to my plug, he showed me love, he out in Long Beach. I'm true geek, walking by myself but left with 2 freaks. Ooh, we nothing in they mouth and on they booty. Austin Power swag, yeah, baby, this is groovy. You can call me money boy, or you can call me nudie. Hood niggas, churches, chicken, let me get a 2-piece. Top down, 2-seater, let me feel the 2 breathe. Gotta hold it steady, chopper, kick it back like Bruce Lee. Lately I've been in the zone, I guess I'm in my 2-3. Don't call my phone for nothing less than a QP. Feeling like the Migos, cause my bitch is bad and bougie. All my haters love me, all these bitches just some groupies. Came a long way, I like to introduce the new me. Standing on business like I'm king or like I'm Drewski. Call me Ron Island, cause I like my love for choosy. When we link it's a movie, she bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me, I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. Call me Ron Island, cause I love my love for choosy. When we link it's a movie, she bustin' like a Uzi. I love the way she do me, I beat it up like Uzi. She dancing just like Suki. I never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Niggas talking reckless, shoot his bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, baby, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 limp biscuit. Never been a hoe, I stay on go, so what the business? Nigga talking reckless, shoot his bitch ass with the quickness. Name pleading, sorry, baby, asking for forgiveness. Bow, 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 limp biscuit.